Good morning, America. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely as we await Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, the superstar, to do a press briefing at 1 o'clock Eastern. We'll have a full show for you today with the Vice President of the United States in an exclusive fireside chat with Breitbart. So we'll bring you to that moments from now, including a playback from yesterday with the First Lady, Melania Trump, and the Second Lady, Usha Vance, in their first joint trip together to Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. In addition to that, we have found that Florida Congresswoman Sheila McCormick indicted for allegedly misusing $5 million in FEMA funds. This could stand to a 53-year sentence if convicted. We'll follow that story very closely as President Trump signing the legislation to release the Epstein files, something that was passed almost unanimously in the House. There was one dissenter, Clay Higgins, in that with the discharge petitions. He was concerned about what may happen in the future with those who are associated either by photo or by other association to anyone who might be convicted in the future of dastardly acts like Jeffrey Epstein was. And did you see our friend Miss Crockett from Texas accuse fellow Republican congressmen of being with Jeffrey Epstein? The only problem was it was a different Dr. Jeffrey Epstein. So the Democrats know no bounds when it comes to hypocrisy and ultimately stupidity, as we covered the latest for you in the federal city. Also today, many officials gathering at the Washington National Cathedral for the funeral of Richard B. Cheney, Dick Cheney, the 46th Vice President of the United States. Former President George W. Bush will be giving a eulogy. Also on his birthday today, the former President Joe Biden in attendance at the Washington National Cathedral, along with former vice presidents. And we caught a glimpse of that earlier. Senator Lindsey Graham and Bill Cassidy, among other dignitaries there from all branches of government to pay their respects to the late vice president. As we again wait for Karoline Leavitt 2 hours from now to give you updates on what's been a very big week in Washington, D.C. Perhaps the largest news, the $1 trillion commitment investment. Actually, when you look at all the deals, you could look up to potentially $16 trillion coming into the United States via the United States Saudi Investment Fund. And that meeting where both the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of the Kingdom joining President Trump in an official visit. Now, again, not a state visit because he is not the head of the nation, although he technically in second of command and will be the next king of Saudi Arabia, runs the country as is right now. That's the structure of their government in their constitutional monarchy. Now, his father, King Salman, President Trump, stating to Mohammed Al Salman, please send my best regards to your father. And this alliance clearly growing in what's almost 250 years of the United States of America and 300 years of the modern kingdom known as Saudi Arabia. And this is something that has been somewhat of a change in foreign policy for Saudi Arabia. They could come into the fold of the Abraham Accords very soon. They have supported that. They have been a big voice in the region. And as President Trump put it at the dinner in the East Room on Tuesday night, this is the strongest and greatest non-NATO ally to the United States. So we'll watch as that relationship continues to blossom for both the United States and Saudi Arabia. Well, it's that time of year again as we prep for Thanksgiving and all the holidays, Hanukkah to Christmas. We're going to be together with family and friends, and we can thank our Lord for these times we get together, these presents that is really the gift of now. But don't let sickness steal your holidays. Every once in a while, someone comes in with the sniffles or a cough or the flu or, God forbid, a very low-level strain of COVID at this point. But allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN wants you to have that right to choose, that freedom with most favored nation status, with affordable pharmaceuticals, right to try generics that some pharmacies will not allow you to have, and with over 300 options of life-saving medications right there for you at this leading online family pharmacy, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's convenient to simply order online, scan that QR code there, and you have access to things like ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, mebendazole, NAD+, to antibiotics, antivirals, and Tamiflu. It's amazing to have on hand. Emergency medical kits. You can travel with this stuff too while you're on the road seeing family and friends. And now with code RSBN10, RSBN10, that's 10% off at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It is an order reviewed by a U.S. doctor. If there's no insurance, there's no problem, no red tape, no hassle, simply a pharmaceutical note that's needed to get these life-saving medications all there for you at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And financial health is something to think about as we make America healthy again, make America wealthy again as well. With Monetary Gold, wealth security preservation, the best in the business. Grab your complimentary presidential gold guide today. Do not delay. Ask how you can eliminate the IRA fees permanently and for life at 888-617-7994. And a great memorabilia, if you will, for that presidential gold guide with number 45 and 47 right on the front cover, rsbnforthegold.com. We know 2 banks have failed this year. Central banks around the world buying up gold and silver. Gold now at $4,500 an ounce. Silver not far behind at $50. A bull market for both. And as the dollar has lost 40% of its purchasing power in the last 2 decades, this is a very good option, whether it's to purchase properties or to create generational wealth for your family. It's a good thing to diversify in. It stood the test of time. In fact, over 5,000 years of human history, gold and silver, always something to strengthen your monetary assets and diversification. You've worked hard for your pension, your savings, your retirement. Don't let it be deleted by the artificial intelligence, the banks, and the fact that paper money can go kapoof and gone in a moment thanks to inflation. Robert Kiyosaki has spoken extensively on this, as well as other friends of the network. And we know that banks have failed, BRICS nations divesting from the dollar. So get some gold and silver stocked up today. RSBN for thegold.com. It's Monetary Gold for the win. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. And with that extra wealth that you accumulate, maybe put a trade or a bet on what's happening in the United States of America with Kalshi.com/RSBN. Who will President Trump pardon this year? Is it Steve Bannon or Changpeng Zhao or Roger Ver? Perhaps someone else as well. Will Bitcoin hit 150K before March Madness and that great celebration that we enjoy with the lovely springtime? Scan that QR code there, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Will my Chicago Bears become NFC North champions? We sure hope so. They're 7-3 right now. What an exciting season we are watching. It's sports, music, culture, politics, and more. Kalshi.com. Trade on anything, literally anything. Kalshi.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we approach 10 minutes after the hour. Again, a very good morning to you, America. I'm Robert McNeely. You are watching Right Side Broadcasting Network, and we have playback of the Vice President of the United States doing a fireside chat with our friends over at Brightcore.
I love to be here with all of you. It's a beautiful building and a beautiful morning. I always joke with Matt, but it's actually not a joke. I'm being dead serious, that this is the most well-sourced journalist in Washington, D.C. And if you remember maybe 6 months ago, maybe it was actually a year and a half ago, when there was this big conversation in the Washington Post about what do we do to actually get in touch with the other half of America? How do we actually make our journalism more appealing to the half of the country that doesn't agree with far-left politics? And I think I texted Jeff Bezos and I said, if you're really serious about this, you should just hire Matt Boyle and make him run your entire political reporting shop. Now, Larry Soloff, I'm sure, is pissed off at me for that suggestion. But unfortunately, for the Washington Post, they did not take my advice. So I'm proud to be here with Matt Boyle and Breitbart, and thanks for everything you guys do.
All right. So, Mr. Vice President, the big news this morning is new jobs numbers blew away expectations.
Huge.
From the September numbers, so these were delayed because of the government shutdown. More than double, 119,000 new jobs. And then also there's some interesting stuff in the wages numbers there as well that shows wages on the rise. Your thoughts on the jobs numbers?
Okay, so a huge jobs report, and I assume the market is going crazy right now. It probably just opened, because what this shows is that the Trump economic policies are actually working. And you've got 119,000 new jobs. Economists thought that we would have about 50,000 new jobs, but that's actually just the headline number. If you look below the surface, I think the numbers are actually better. So number one, wages continue to way outpace inflation. If you go back to the 3 years of the Biden administration, the average American worker actually lost about $3,000 of take-home pay. In the first 10 months of the Trump economy, we've increased take-home pay by about $1,200, adjusting for inflation. So that's a huge, huge thing, and this jobs report confirms that. You have the number of manufacturing hours worked in the economy is actually going up. You see the private sector is really driving this economic growth and is driving the job creation. And this is really important, I know, to you, Matt, but really to me, and it's that we are seeing the job growth go to native-born American citizens. And what happened under the Biden administration is, to the extent there was any job growth at all, if you looked at the data, almost all of the net job creation in the United States under the Biden administration went to the foreign-born. Now, of course, some of those people are legal immigrants to the United States, but that means that a lot of the job creation was actually going to illegal aliens who shouldn't have been in our country. The best thing that you can say about the Trump economy is that American jobs are going to American workers for a change, and that's the thing that I'm proudest about with these numbers.
Right. So now another big story is that last night President Trump announced that tomorrow he's going to be hosting a meeting with the New York City mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani. He calls him communist.
I might have
He's
a
not wrong
tomorrow.
about that. But anyway, point is that the Mamdani's rise can be attributed to his, everybody's, the new buzzword, if you will, is affordability,
sure.
Right? Like, so how do we, people out there feel like the economic situation isn't that great. Look, we're 10 months to the day here since the inauguration. But they want to see more. They want to see more
Yep.
action. We've seen a lot of steps you guys have taken. A lot of people are putting a lot of faith in what Secretary Besson is saying, that the first half of next year the economy is going to boom because of the policies you guys have enacted. What's your message to those out there who feel like they haven't seen that gain yet?
Yeah, well, first, Matt, the government shutdown didn't help, to be clear. And I do think that actually pumped the brakes a little bit on all the great economic news that we were seeing. And look, the Democrats, our attitude was, why are the Democrats doing this? They're the party of government. Why are they shutting down the government? For 10 years, they said to shut down the government is an act of economic terrorism on the United States. And it's sort of a question that answers itself, because I think that they were so worried about what the Trump administration is doing that they were willing to blow the whole thing up, hold a gun to the head of the American economy in order to get what they want. And that's going to cause a little bit of damage, but I think it'll be ultimately very, very minor, because we were able to get the shutdown wrapped up. And I guess my message to the American people who are still feeling like things are unaffordable, who are still feeling like things are rough out there is look, we get it, and we hear you, and we know that there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of wood to chop, because the Biden administration put us in such a very, very tough spot. And the way that I think about this is it's always helpful to take this from the abstractions to the actual real things that people are worried about. So take, for example, a dozen eggs. I'll never forget this. It was one of the very first, maybe the single first press conference that the president had done since he had started his second term. And some reporter, probably from ABC, yells at him and says, "What have you done about the price of eggs? The price of eggs are up 300% over the past 3 years." And it's like, it was January the 23rd. It's like, what do you mean, what have we done in 2 days? It's going to take a little bit of time to fix that problem. And so if you're an American who's just struggling to get by, you work hard, you pay your taxes, you want your kids to have good opportunities, and the price of eggs goes from $2 a dozen to $8 a dozen under the Biden administration, and then under the Trump administration it goes from $8 a dozen to maybe $6.50 a dozen, well, to you, that is still a major problem. And even though we've made incredible progress, we understand that there's a lot more work to do. And the thing that I'd ask for the American people is a little bit of patience. This economy was not harmed in 10 months. It took a deliberate 4-year administration that was making life harder for everyday Americans, that was importing foreign workers instead of giving jobs to American workers, that was over-regulating, overtaxing, overspending. They were doing everything wrong. And as much progress as we've made, it's going to take a little bit of time for every American to feel that economic boom, which we really do believe is coming. We believe that we're on the front end of it, but we also recognize that we've got a lot of work to do to undo the damage that Joe Biden did to the American economy. And the last one I'll say, Matt, is let's be honest, it's not just Joe Biden. As much as I think Joe Biden was one of the most disastrous presidents of American history, we had a policy in this country for 40 years of shipping American jobs overseas and hiring foreign workers instead of American workers. That has caused the economic stagnation of the American middle class. There was one bright spot in 40 years, and that was the first Trump administration, and there is going to be a massive exception to that 40-year trajectory of American decline, and that's the second Trump administration. We just got to keep it going.
Right. So now we're a year removed from you and President Trump winning a massive electoral victory in November 2024, and we're just a couple of months since our friend Charlie Kirk was brutally murdered by a radical leftist. But at the same time, we are seeing some, whether it's inside Congress, outside Congress, some divisions in the MAGA movement, and I get it that there's this issue, that issue, whatever. What would be your message to how to reunify this movement for the fights ahead, whether it's the midterm elections, 2028 and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have to remember that we have a lot more in common than we do not in common. And that the disagreements that animate the Republican Party, while they matter and they're important, I think these debates should happen. They should happen in podcasts, and they should happen in the media. They should happen on the op-ed pages. It's totally reasonable for the people who make up this coalition to argue about what our foreign policy should be, what our specific tax policy should be, what our housing policy should be. I mean, I had a meeting just yesterday that was focused in the West Wing about how do we get housing more affordable for young Americans because of all the things that got completely out of control under the Biden administration. You had homes that doubled or tripled in price depending on the geography in 4 years under the Biden administration. We've got to solve that problem for our young people so they can afford to buy homes, start families, and actually build their own American dream. So I think my attitude is let these debates play out. But don't let the debates that we're having internally blind us to the fact that we're up against a radical leftist movement that murdered my friend a couple of months ago and that would throw many people in the Trump administration in prison, not for doing anything illegal, but for not following the far left's agenda. That is the real opponent here. A political movement in this country that has no animating principle, that has no agenda for the American people. Their sole obsession is to take down Donald Trump and anybody who helped Donald Trump govern. Focus on the enemy, have our debates, but focus on the enemy so that we can win victories that matter for the American people. That's my message.
Right. So now, one of the things that powered your guys' victory, I think, a year ago was a political realignment in this country where we're seeing working class people shift to the Republican side, and the Democrats, frankly, are becoming the party of the rich. There was a new report that our partners here that put on this event, CGCN, published a couple of weeks ago called Class Dismissed 2. And in this report, they go into detail about how some of the numbers on this political realignment. 75%, more than 75% of the top 30 income congressional districts are represented by Democrats now. That's a totally new thing. The last 3 presidential elections, the Democrats counties were represented more than 60%, in the case of the 2020 election, more than 70% of aggregate GDP in this country. President Trump won counties 30-something% in each of those elections. So your thoughts on what we're seeing now with this political realignment, some of those statistics?
So let me say a few things, Matt. So first of all, I think that part of what you see as division in the Republican Party is a consequence of this realignment. We have a new governing coalition. We have a new political coalition. We have people who didn't used to vote Republican, and frankly, they have different preferences sometimes on certain issues than maybe the Ronald Reagan or George W. Bush Republican Party did. I think the Donald Trump Party is a fundamentally new phenomenon in American politics. I think that it can govern the country successfully for the next generation, but some of those divisions you talk about are just the natural outgrowth of the fact that we've got a lot of working class voters who frankly don't care what was Republican orthodoxy 25 years ago, and so they're pushing the party in a different direction. And again, I think that debate is natural and normal, and it's something that we should frankly lean into, recognizing that the far left is really the problem that we have to confront in this country. The second thing that I'll say about it, Matt, is I think it's a great thing. You know, and I'm biased. Obviously, I grew up in a working class family. I was raised by the kind of people who were blue dog Democrats, socially conservative Democrats in the 80s and 90s, and have turned hard towards Donald Trump's Republican Party. These are the people who built America's greatest icons, who built America's greatest buildings, who drive our food into the grocery store every day. They are the human beings who actually make this country run. I'm proud of them, and I want to keep the Trump coalition together. That's one of the things that we have to do in 2026. And this is my third point, and this is tough, because one of the things that was true of the Democratic coalition in, say, the 1990s is that because the Democratic coalition in the 90s was more upscale, they showed up, the Republican coalition in the 1990s was more upscale, they showed up in midterms. So Republicans tended to do a little bit better in midterm elections in the 1990s than, say, Republicans do today. And that's because while these working class voters are great, they're also people who don't necessarily show up to vote in the midterms all the time. We've got to motivate them. We've got to get them out to vote. I think that's one of the lessons that we learned in Virginia and New Jersey is that when Donald Trump is not on the ballot, you've got to give people something to actually believe in, something to be inspired by to get out there and vote. They're not going to vote just because you have an R next to your name. You've got to speak to this new working class coalition. And the one worry that I have when I look at so many of our great congressional allies, I do think that some of our folks in Congress, they want to go back to the Republican Party of 20 years ago. That Republican Party was a Republican Party that lost and that couldn't successfully govern the country. We need to lean into this new coalition, do a better job serving them, and that's how we get them to show up in these midterm elections so that we can win not just presidential races, but midterm races too.
Right. Okay. So you mentioned George W. Bush at the beginning of that answer. Now, there's a lot of news going on out there. Today is a somber day for the Bush family and for your predecessor, former Vice President Dick Cheney, who passed away. Today's his funeral. So I want to see if you have any thoughts on or message to the Cheney family. I know there was some misreporting out there about whether or not you were invited to that or whatever. But outside of that, there's also another big report that came out a couple of days ago about how George W. Bush and the people around him are plotting for retaking the Republican Party from President Trump and you down the road and going back to the old way of doing things. I guess they don't like to win, but the point is that that's out there. So any response to that as well?
Well, first of all, my condolences go to Dick Cheney and his family. Obviously, there are some political disagreements there, but he was a guy who served his country. We certainly wish his family all the best in this moment of grieving. On the issue of George W. Bush, I mean, look, as you know, Matt, I don't put stock in any story that doesn't come from Matthew J. Boyle at Breitbart News, so this could be totally fake news. But I definitely think, and you already see this, you saw this in 2020, you're going to see it in 2025 and 2026, there is an effort to try to wrest control of the Republican Party away from the voters and away from the coalition that really delivered the big victory in 2024. I think it's a huge mistake. Look, the American people don't want stupid wars and America's jobs going overseas and wide open borders. That is, whether intentional or not, that was the legacy of the Republican Party that came before Donald J. Trump. I'm glad the president got us away from that Republican Party. It lost, but it was also a disaster for the United States of America. Let's actually have a foreign policy where we focus on the interests of American citizens. Let's have an economic policy that's about building in the United States of America rather than shipping all of our jobs overseas and getting Wall Street enriched in the process. Let's have an economic policy that's about more self-sufficiency. I mean, I have 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. I don't want to wake up in a country where I take my kid to the doctor and they can't get antibiotics because the antibiotics that were invented in the United States of America are manufactured in some foreign country. That is the legacy of the Republican Party that came before Donald J. Trump. We're not going back to it.
Okay, so now you mentioned the foreign policy and the deals that we're seeing around the world. One of the things that's been the hallmark here of President Trump's second term, again, we're 10 months to the day since the inauguration, has been these deals. We were going to try to do this event last month, but I know you got called over to Israel on the Gaza deal.
Sure.
So give us kind of and by the way, we have in the audience here today, I know that there are ambassadors from at least two places. The European Union ambassador and the Taiwanese ambassador are here. Walk us through how President Trump has approached these various big picture deals, because I mean he's got more than I think 85% of world GDP now in trade deals.
Sure.
With the United States, and I lost count of how many peace deals he's done this year.
Yeah, well, greetings to the ambassadors. We're thrilled to have you, of course, and greetings to everybody else, including even the fake news. I'm sure is reporting there in the back.
There's a lot of fake news.
I'm sure
they're all lined up.
I'm sure there are. I can see their fake news eyes peering up at me. I'm sure, ready to misreport everything that I've said today. But no, we love you guys too. Kind of. So here's the thing about the president's negotiating style. And I actually, we were a little delayed because the president called me right before I got on stage just about one of these deals that we're working on. And what I love about it is that it's never enough, right? And so you bring him a deal and, he sort of asks for this, and this. We want this tariff rate. We want this country to drop their tariff barriers. We want this country to drop their non-tariff barriers. And you say, I'm never going to be able to get that done. And then you get it done and you bring it to him and he said, well, I want three other things too. Because his attitude is he wants to get the best deal possible for the American people. And for too long, we had trade negotiators that so believed in the fake idea of free trade over fair trade that they were willing to sell American workers down the river without actually negotiating on the interests of American workers. And so whether it's with China or India or any of the countries that we struck deals, the basic principle is we want Americans to have better access to their markets. We believe in our workers. We think that we have the best products in the world. We want to be able to sell them everywhere. That's number one. Number two, we don't want foreign products to undercut the wages of American workers. We're actually going to protect our markets, protect our important industries, and that's a very important part of the Trump trade plan. And you've seen it happen in a lot of different ways. And then the final thing, and this raises your point about Gaza or any of these other foreign deals, is we've been able to use the incredible economic leverage of the United States of America. I mean, we're 25%, probably a little bit more than that, of the world GDP. Why don't we ever use our economic leverage to achieve peace? Because when countries aren't fighting each other, when they're actually using their economic talents to manufacture good things rather than weapons to kill each other, then that actually creates incredible economic opportunities for Americans. And that's what the president, that's why he's so focused on peace. He's fundamentally a humanitarian, and we've got 8 peace deals at this point. We're working on number 9 and number 10. And I think that, if he gets number 10 purely for mathematical harmony, if he gets to 10, the Nobel Prize should be awarded to Donald J. Trump, even though he's certainly earned it with the first 8. But I also think that there's this sense that while he wants to save lives, he also sees a world where people are engaging in commerce with one another rather than killing one another. And he just, he's a tough guy, but he's not a violent human. He's not a person, who I think understands violence at a sort of fundamental level. It's why don't you stop killing each other and start trading with one another? Why, rather than Russia and Ukraine killing one another, why don't they actually engage in some commerce with one another, travel between the two countries, engage in some sort of cultural exchange? That is his fundamental perspective that he takes into these things. And fundamentally, if we get more peace in the world, it's good for American workers, it's good for the American people, and the president's going to keep on pursuing peace. He's done very well so far, but he's going to keep on working at it.
Yeah, so there's a lot I want to pack into this next question. So one of the things what we've seen, I think, since your guys' victory last year, the whole world over, everybody I've talked to around the world, really seems to have rallied to President Trump's vision on things like trade and immigration. I just saw, and particularly with regard to China and how we need to have a better deal with regard to there, and we just saw the president get back from there.
Yep.
I just saw comments that Pope Leo made about immigration. He said just the other day, and we did a huge story on it on Breitbart last night, that every country should get to decide. I'm paraphrasing him here. Every country should get to decide who gets to come in. I mean, that's amazing to see that. It's from the Pope himself.
Sure.
Your thoughts on more broadly how President Trump really does seem to have electrified the world and woke them up to these major issues that we're talking about here?
Yeah. Well, Matt, you know I'm a devout Catholic, so I followed those comments closely, including on, of course, Breitbart.com, and that's my third Breitbart shout out. I've done pretty good, right?
There's a lot of
20
Breitbart
minutes,
shout-outs.
not bad.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. But you know, it's interesting because you may not know it, judging purely from the comments of some people on social media. But the Catholic Church's views on this are actually quite clear, and it's that, yes, you must treat immigrants humanely. On the other hand, every nation has the right to control its borders, and obviously how you strike that balance is very important, but there's a lot of room there to actually control your own borders for the sake of your own people. One of the things, Matt, that you know always frustrated me about the immigration debate is that we ignored how open borders were not actually good for the dignity even of the illegal migrants themselves. You had little kids getting sex trafficked. We had 300,000 missing children under the Biden administration that the Mexican drug cartels had brought into our country. You had cartels using, in some cases, 9 and 10-year-old children as drug mules for their activity. Border security is not just good for American citizens, it is the humanitarian thing to do for the entire world. Because when you empower the cartels and when you empower the human traffickers, whether in the United States or anywhere else, you're empowering the very worst people in the world. Now, you've seen this in Europe, you've seen this in a whole host of places, but, you know, it's almost like Europe and America got this idea in their head that to control your border at all was fundamentally, you know, uncompassionate, maybe it was even racist and bad. The president and I reject that wholesale. Putting the interests of your citizens first, it's not some ancillary thing. It is the very purpose of government. I am the American vice president. I wish very good things for the people of Mexico or the people of the United Kingdom or the people of any other country, but my priority, my charge is to look after the people of the United States of America, and you cannot do that if you're flooding the country with a ton of illegal immigrants and the drugs and the crime that they bring.
Yeah, so the last question I've got, please give them applause for that one. That's incredible. Okay, so Mr. Vice President, the last question
Even
I've
the
got,
Washington Post applause.
I know, I think they did. So
I got fired.
So Mr. Vice President, the last question I got for you on that note, so is that there's a big discussion right now about health care in this country.
Yes.
The ACA subsidies expire at the end of the year. There's a lot of questions about what's going to happen about this. The Democrats shut the government down supposedly over this. But where does this go? What do we do to address healthcare prices and premium prices and so on and so forth? What does that look like? Is it a reconciliation plan? Walk us through what happened.
So what's so crazy about this, Matt, is right before the government shut down, we had a meeting with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer in the Oval Office.
Is this where President Trump gave them the MAGA hats? Yeah.
This is not just that. But the president whispers to one of his personal assistants. They're all very good people. And she kind of runs off. And I think to myself immediately, oh, what the hell have I gotten myself into? And she comes back with 2 Trump 2028 hats to give to Jeffries and Schumer. And then he has the photographer come in and he points at Jeffries as he's holding the Trump 2028 hat. And he's like, he says to the photographer, make sure Hakeem gets that. I'm sure he's going to want to use it in his campaign advertisements. And it was like a hysterical moment. But when we got to the serious stuff, and they said, we really want to address the health care problem confronting the American people, the president said, well, absolutely. We agree. We want to address the health care problem confronting the American people. In fact, you people screwed it up with Obamacare, the Unaffordable Care Act, and now you're coming to us saying, let's fix it. Great. Let's fix it. And then they said, I think they were kind of caught off guard, and they're like, well, but we want the fix before we're willing to open up the government. And the president was like, that's like 3 days from now. You want us to fix American healthcare in the next 3 days, and unless you do it, you're going to shut down the government? How about we open up the government and then work together to fix American healthcare? And of course, we know the history. They rejected it. They shut down the government. But I don't want to get ahead of the president, Matt, because we had a very, very good meeting in the Oval Office yesterday. I think that we have a great healthcare plan coming together. I think that it's going to get Republican and Democrat support. And I think the president, look, right now, the American people get crap health care, and they pay way too much for it. You have people who are paying thousands of dollars a month in premiums for a family of 4, a family of 5, and the access to health care is really low. This system is broken. The Democrats broke it, but who cares? We're going to work together if they're willing to fix it. And the interesting thing, Matt, is, people say, and this is one of the things I love about the president, people come to the president and say, no, don't talk about health care. That's a graveyard for Republicans. Republicans always lose on health care. And the president's like, I don't care about the politics of it. This system is screwed up for the American people. We need to fix it. So let's go and do it. Politics be damned. I love that. That's leadership, and that's exactly what we should want coming from the White House.
Mr. Vice President, really want to thank you for taking the time here.
Thank you, Matt. Good to see you guys.
I'm American made. I got American parts. I got American faith in America's heart.
And the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, with a fireside chat being hosted by Breitbart and Matt Boyle. A very nice job there in Washington, D.C. earlier today, as we await Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing at the White House, the James S. Brady briefing room in the West Wing at 1 o'clock Eastern. Stay tuned for that, as we'd like to thank angelpaste.com, the miracle that is the vitamin B cream that I use every single day, especially this time of year. Although it was humid this morning down in eastern Alabama. It's amazing how that works. I prefer that over the cold, wintry, brisk nature of the north this time of year. But regardless, you do have that dry air that does come in. So a perfect time for the non-GMO, non-chemical vitamin B infused miracle cream, the original. Also the orange option infused with vitamin C, also non-GMO, no chemicals to worry about there. And a natural facial spray to paint the town red. They have great products here out of Spring, Texas, right on the Gulf of America. It's the experience, the miracle that truly is angelpaste.com, Christian owned. They hire veterans, a great group of people out of the Lone Star State. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. Covepure.com/RSBN. You might have that person it's hard to shop for. I have a couple of them in the family and some friends that, oh my goodness, should I just get you a pair of socks because we don't know what to buy you? Well, if you want to make America healthy again, this reverse osmosis system that's leading its way with Clearwave technology, taking 99.9% of the impurities out of the water, including fluoride, pesticides, agricultural runoff, and even hormone-disrupting blockers like birth control that the water treatment facilities cannot get at 100%. So this is truly no larger than a coffee machine or coffee maker as you might have on your kitchen counter. The other great thing about this, you might have that family member who really enjoys tea and they have to steep that and wait 5 to 10 minutes for the hot water to get going. Instantly, you get hot water, cool water, cold water, lukewarm water, whatever you want from covepure.com/RSBN with the holiday sale at $250 off. And perhaps you have that person in life, that some companies want us to not own things. They want us to be renters forever. But here's the nice thing about renting. This machine does not need tubes or holes drilled or a plumber or anything like that to hook it up to another reverse osmosis system. It's built right into the machine itself. So drink pure, live pure. The holiday sale, $250 off, covepure.com/RSBN. Let's make America healthy again. It starts at covepure.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. And you might have heard the news, crypto.com. This is the place to go. The Trump Media Group creating a CRO strategy that's the largest in human history with crypto.com, specifically from the group that brought you truth, social, now comes an investment and a CRO strategy built out through this pipeline that's really exciting for people to diversify their income in a way that you might not have done before. And it's all through crypto.com. Join the historic movement. And Trump Media Group continues to grow. They were put on the sidelines by the SEC a while ago. They did not go public for a long period of time, thanks to people like Senator Elizabeth Warren and far-left Democrats in Washington, D.C., who tried to do everything possible to stop free speech online. Now they're working to make sure that you have a financial future protected in amazing commodities like crypto. So check out this new CR strategy and a partnership between Trump Media Group and Crypto.com that is unlike any other. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history, Crypto.com. As Monetary Gold, another wonderful organization working to diversify your savings, protect your pensions, your retirement, everything that you worked hard for. We live in a society right now where that can all be turned off. That's why AI is so important to watch, so important to put America First people into office like President Trump, like Vice President Vance, to make sure that evil actors like the Chinese Communist Party do not take advantage of what the BRICS nations are working on, divesting from the American dollar. My colleague Matthew Alvarez had the moment to speak with Senior Portfolio Manager Scott Cheney, all the way in Los Angeles, California. He's becoming a fast friend here at the network, a good man, Mr. Scott Cheney, to dive into what's not or no longer a luxury now, but truly a must in 2025 America, diversifying in gold and silver, and how that might be able to help your portfolio.
And joining us now is Scott Cheney with Monetary Gold. Thank you so much for joining us today, Scott.
Hey, Matthew, how you doing? Thank you.
Thank
you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Doing well. I mean, it's the holiday season, and a lot of people are thinking, well, what do I have to do for my finances, right? Because that's top of mind when you're buying gifts and all that kind of thing. So let's just talk about that as well with Monetary Gold. I mean, that's kind of a good Christmas gift too, isn't it?
It's funny that you mentioned that. We're getting customers right now reaching out to us and saying, hey, I want to buy this for my kids. What do I do? So it is a great Christmas gift. Gold and silver is a physical asset, and people are putting it in their stockings. So that's a very nice grandma or grandpa that you have there that are calling in.
That would be awesome when it comes to reach into there and see gold or silver. I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to the economy, there's so much unknown. Obviously, we have the tariffs right now. The government just opened up again. It's unpredictable. Where you see where crypto is right now, you see the stock market. Gold and silver is obviously stable and rising. We're concerned, as always. There's a lot of unknown, I would say, Matthew, in the whole world right now.
Yeah, and it's something that you have to have that anchor, whether it's your faith in God or faith in Jesus or the faith that you have out there, or something like this, tangible gold and silver. So can you talk to us about some of the things that can potentially happen for the dollar to crash? And what does that mean for it to crash? Does it simply mean just devalue so heavily quickly, or?
Right. Well, I love that you brought up Jesus and putting your faith in God, and that's where I stand. More importantly than anything, it's him above everything else, Jesus above everything else. But as far as where we are as a country, and as far as really the debt is concerned, okay, if the dollar does crash, there's reasons why there is risks right now to the dollar, okay? And I want to give your audience a little understanding of that. Right now, there could be issues that the U.S. can't pay its debt. Obviously, Matthew, we know that we are $38 trillion in total debt right now, and that debt is climbing. I think last time I looked at it today or this morning was 38,200,000,000,000. And so it's scary. You click that, and the numbers you just see rising and rising and rising right now. So right there, it's a concern that U.S., if we can't pay that off, that leads to a potential dollar crash. The next thing is extreme political chaos. Would you say that the whole world right now is really stable and everybody's calm and there's no anger or adversity with one another right now?
Yeah, exactly. It's not perfectly stable, and that's the way we'd like it, but it's definitely not right now.
Right. So when you look at that, you look at whether it's elections in other countries, and that plays a factor in our dollar. Whether it's government shutdowns, which we've seen, and then you go back to you go back to where we are in the dollar power. Like we're losing dollar power. It's 15 to 20% in the last 5 years. We've lost dollar power. We then go to countries stepping away from the U.S. dollar and trying to monetize their trade elsewhere, such as BRICS nation. I mean, I'm naming things and actually giving examples of what is happening right now in this country. When you look at these other countries stepping away, and I know I mentioned it last week to you, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, many other countries added on to this list. They're stepping away from our dollar, and they want to trade using other currencies, whether it's oil, whether it's gold and silver. So that what it does is they want to not only take away our power, but it's like use other currencies so that they don't have to rely on the United States or the dollar. So we're seeing that. We're seeing bank issues right now. We've lost 2 banks this year, so there's a risk in bank failure. And then obviously major wars right now. Concerned in the Middle East, concern with Russia and Ukraine. Right now there's a lot of issue, Matthew, in Taiwan and the uncertainty there. And then you're just looking at the risks that we have right now. Venezuela, the tariffs, all these things impact the dollar. All of them impact the dollar. And so it takes 1 second. And can you imagine working all your life? You're an average American working all your life. You have a 401k or an IRA that you're putting into retirement. And all of a sudden, one of these things goes off and the dollar not only devaluates, say it crashes. Say we have a 1920s, financial crash. This is all possible. And your whole nest egg is tied to the US dollar. That's why people are buying gold and silver, Matthew. That's exactly it. To hedge against the dollar. It brings protection. So those are risks right now on losing the dollar. And I hope I explained that well to your audience there.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. But so specifically, then how can gold and silver do exactly that, protect you and become a hedge against the dollar? Specifically, what steps would need to be taken in order for things to be a little bit more stable in the financial arena?
Yeah. So even just with our research department right now, we're looking at everything that I just mentioned, countries, dollar declining, our debt an issue, all these things. What gold and silver is it literally protects you from purchasing power. So gold and silver, it's been held for thousands of years right now. And when you're dealing with paper currency and you could reprint those things, Matthew, you can't reprint gold. You can't reprint silver. These are things that hold its value, and you see they trade all around the world. It's not tied to the US dollar. And it's a currency that trades all around the world, but also liquidates all around the world, which is very important. So going over it, financial crisis, it's a hedge against the dollar there. Market crashes, geopolitical stability, bank failures, all these things that I mentioned to you, that protects you from the dollar. And very clearly, it's been used for thousands of years. And I give this example again and again. What would you rather have, Matthew, right now, where you could reprint dollars and you'd have a safe full of US dollars, or a safe filled with gold and silver? What sounds like a better option to you?
All three, to be honest. But yes, I hear I hear your point, and that's the thing. You guys deal with physical gold and silver. Can you talk to us more about that, and how easy is it to actually access that with your company?
Right. So I've been doing these interviews once a week now, with different media outlets. And what I'm finding out is people don't think that we provide physical gold and silver. That's all we sell. So I want to be very clear on that. All we sell is physical gold and silver. Okay, it's not an ETF. It's not tied to the US dollar. It is physical gold and silver, is what I say to our customers. It is wealth that you could actually hold. It's tangible. So that's what we do. Everything we deal with, whether it's cash or a retirement account, we put you into physical assets of precious metals, gold and silver.
So what is the next step right now? If someone's saying, I'm sold on this because I do see there could be a possible situation in the future when it comes to finances.
Right.
What's their next step then?
Well, their next step is to call that number. Okay, we have live people here right now. We're on the sales floor. I'm in the front room right now, but we're live here. Our phones are ringing. We're talking to customers every day that want to get protected. And it's like we don't sell gold and silver. We understand if there's a need, we want to help you with that need. And people are protecting themselves. I don't really know other options other than physical assets. The housing market, there's concern right now because the purchasing power is lowering. So all these things, they're looking at precious metals at an asset which hedges against the dollar. So call that number. You'll get a live specialist, and we're going to go through what you have, whether you're looking to protect cash in the bank, Matthew, or you're looking to protect a retirement account. See if you qualify, and we'll make sure to go over these things, diversify your portfolio, and put you into physical precious metals like gold and silver.
And then all you have to do, it looks like, is that number you see on your screen there. Call 888-617-7994 or go to rsbnforthegold.com. Scott, can you talk to us about the info kit? So is this something that you can call or go on the internet and just get to your house, or is it online? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah. So we provide a free info kit to where we ship to you. We could email it to you. But more importantly, that is really marketing for what we do. How your audience and how your listeners, Matthew, are going to understand the process and what we do is by walking you step by step, understanding the portfolio that you have, how much money are you willing to work with, how we could protect you. And we don't want the money that you're living on. But that's not money that we want in gold and silver. This is money that you've worked very, very hard for, that you're looking to protect and watch grow. And I want to help you do that. I'm a senior portfolio manager here. My colleague Paul, who works with me behind the scenes, he answers the calls a lot and goes through really an understanding of how it looks and how it works. And you could get transferred over to me and we'll walk you through it. And we're more than happy to do it. And if you do call right now, we will wipe out IRA fees for a lifetime if you do qualify. So we want to take care of your audience. We appreciate RSBN, and it's always a right time to buy gold and silver, especially with the uncertainty, the tariffs, and everything that really you and I mentioned, Matthew.
And then on top of that, sometimes people like to go online but talking to a live agent, that you're not going to get some robot on the phone. It's an actual person. And that interaction, so you can ask every question that you have, I think is really key. And it's great that you guys have that option outside of the internet, right? You can just old school call and get it taken care of. So Scott Cheney with Monetary Gold, thank you again. We'll see you again soon right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Always a pleasure being on this show. God bless you. And when you get out to California, you come visit me.
All right. That sounds like a plan. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
It's that time of year again. It's the holiday season. Just a week from today, it's Thanksgiving. Can you believe that? Well, sometimes that sickness can steal your holidays. A lot of traveling, a lot of togetherness, and going out and change of temperatures to all of those things. So stock up on these life-saving medications, over 300 in fact, from the online pharmacy known as allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. They're leading the space with the right to try, with generics that you won't find in other pharmaceutical companies, things like ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, mebendazole, NAD+, methylene blue, also antivirals, antibiotics, to emergency medical kits, and Tamiflu. So good to have on hand, and they are small and convenient, so you can take them on the road with you. Very easy to do, whether you're traveling by plane, train, or automobile. 10% off with code RSBN10. That's RSBN10. Scan the QR code there now for these life-saving medications. It's no red tape. It's no bureaucracy. If you do not have insurance, there's no hassle, no problem. Simply, a U.S. doctor will review your order and make sure everything is kosher and send that to your door within a couple of days or so. Speedy, reliant, and also safe, secure, and affordable. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10 right now. MyPillow.com/RSBN. The early Black Friday Day special for as low as $25 with the promo code. We're talking blankets, comforters, duvets. RSBN is the promo code. Call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network. He is the master marketer. President Trump has mentioned that a time or two. Perhaps after the Trump presidency, I don't even want to think about that day, but maybe Mike Lindell and President Trump can co-host a resurgence of The Apprentice, because these two gentlemen know how to run a business. And with all of these great products made in America, you can have a more comfortable evening and an even better morning. I love the My Coffee. Over 2,000 products right there at mypillow.com/RSBN. Take advantage of that early Black Friday special for as low as $25 with promo code RSBN at mypillow.com/RSBN. Blankets, comforters, duvets, they will go fast. 800-836-7566. Thank you to Mike Lindell and his Minnesota operation known as mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you to the viewers. Thank you in this season of thanks. We are grateful for all of you as we've transitioned from your rally network. Heck, we still do that. We still dominate that space of the American media, but now we are your go-to live desk for coverage of the 45th and 47th President of the United States, the 50th Vice President, the 119th Congress, and the battle that will peacefully and patriotically ensue during the 2026 midterms. We have a communist, Mr. Mamdani, visiting with President Trump tomorrow about the future of New York City. Do we want to elect people like that in 2026? Because God knows many of them are running. It's capitalism versus socialism in the real time. And to cover that fairly, to cover that on the right side of history, to cover that correctly for you by not editing speeches and not doing what the BBC does and cutting things to make a narrative up about a politician, we'd rather show you the whole speech so that you can make up your own mind. Please support us here on the right side of history, rsbnetwork.com/donate, or text RSBN to 801-801. If you'd like to send a check or money order, 1550, that's 1550, Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, that's Auburn, Alabama, 36830, 1550, Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. We are grateful for you. We're grateful for your donations, as this is the new media. This is the right side of history, and we are with you. rsbnetwork.com/donate. Text RSBN to 801-801, as I'd like to show you a new commercial we're airing regarding kimchi. It's quite a powerful cleanser for the body, whether it's your stomach lining to the things that are in our environment, from microplastics in the air, the water, and the products that we consume. It's kind of a frightening topic, but it's good to know that Brightcore leading the way with vitamins and supplements, especially their Kimchi 1, to make sure you are healthy and ready for the holiday season.
The FDA says it's keeping Americans safe, but when government power goes unchecked, it's our freedom and our health that pay the price. They say they're protecting and promoting public health, but the U.S. has some of the worst health outcomes in the world, including lowered life expectancy, increased infant mortality, and higher rates of chronic health conditions. Because while bureaucrats and corporations pat each other on the back, the truth is, America's being poisoned. No one can avoid it. Our food and water are filled with toxins, preservatives, and microplastics that leach into everything we eat. From plastic cutting boards and nonstick pans to healthy produce sprayed with sludge, Americans are unknowingly exposed to hazards every day. One study showed the average person has the equivalent of a plastic spoon in their brain. Another study showed that 88% of food and water samples tested contain significant amounts of microplastics. Once these microplastics enter your body, they don't pass through harmlessly. They trigger constant inflammation and disrupt your biome, which devastates your immune system and your body's natural ability to defend itself. They carry toxic additives and heavy metals that leach into your bloodstream, disrupting your hormones, damaging DNA, and accelerating aging from the inside out. Doctors are finding links between microplastic exposure and infertility, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, and early cognitive decline. And the truth is, your body can't get rid of them. Recently, researchers studying traditional Korean kimchi discovered something incredible. A probiotic strain called Bacillus pumilis, found only in kimchi, can actually degrade BPA. In the lab, these bacteria were shown to break down BPA into harmless components, literally digesting one of the most persistent plastic toxins known to science. And the source? Kimchi, a food that's been part of human diets for over 2,000 years, full of wisdom and fermentation. It's proof that sometimes the answers to modern problems aren't found in more chemicals or pills, but in the power of nature itself. Kimchi is one of the world's most powerful superfoods, but daily consumption is key to yielding its health benefits. That's why Brightcore created Kimchi One, to give you all the benefits of premium fermented kimchi in a convenient capsule form. No mess, no taste, no hassle. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains, live enzymes, and antioxidants that help restore balance in your gut and health to the rest of your body. People are seeing improvements in digestion, energy, even cardiovascular and brain health. Studies show that kimchi reduces body fat by over 31%, promotes smaller waistlines, and lowers BMI. Kimchi One is all natural, non-GMO, dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free, and 100% made in the USA, so just about anyone can take it. Store-bought kimchi tends to be high in sodium, as where Kimchi One contains virtually no sodium. In a world full of plastic, give your body the protection it needs.
Thank you to Brightcore and the Kimchi One. This is life-saving here. 25% off with code RSBN, mybrightcore.com/RSBN. Scan the QR code now, but here's an even better deal. 50% off plus free shipping only when you call. So call today. Do not delay. It's 888-722-0936. That's 888-722-0936. But if you can't call for whatever reason today, go online. Get that 25% off with code RSBN. Easy to remember. mybrightcore.com/RSBN. Very grateful for our sponsors here on the right side of history, as less than 1 hour from now, from the James S. Brady briefing room at the West Wing of the White House, Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing on all of this week's news as we celebrate this golden era that we are entering with cut number one. Mr. Producer, President Trump quite impressed with Mr. CR7 himself. Times 45-47 equals GOATs, the greatest of all time. Cristiano Ronaldo playing in that Saudi league and bringing soccer really around the world as it continues to grow here in America. We saw the FIFA task force there on Monday with President Trump. And as the soccer superstar mentioned, thank you, Mr. President, for your warm welcome to the White House that you and the First Lady gave me and my future wife, Georgiana Gio, a beautiful woman and a smart woman in her own right. Quite a duo, just like President and Mrs. Trump. Each of us has something meaningful to give, and I stand ready to do my part as we inspire new generations to build a future defined by courage, responsibility, and lasting peace. As with cut number two, President Trump mentioning that the communist mayor, Mr. Mamdani, coming to the White House tomorrow, but there's a tremendous atrocity taking place in the Sudan as well. These are big issues. As I mentioned here on the show before, you have this unholy triumvirate of communism, globalism, and Islamism influencing the world right now. And President Trump's aware of it as well. It has become the most violent place on earth, and likewise the single biggest humanitarian crisis. Food, doctors, and everything else are desperately needed. Arab leaders from all over the world, in particular the highly respected Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who has just left the United States, has asked me to use the power and influence of the presidency to bring an immediate halt to what has been taking place in the Sudan. It is considered a great civilization and culture, unfortunately gone bad, but one that can be fixed with the cooperation and coordination of countries, including those in the region of the tremendous wealth who want this to happen. We will work with Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and other Middle Eastern partners to get these atrocities to end, while at the same time stabilizing Sudan. Thank you for your attention to this matter. God bless the world. It's easy for people to fire weapons and missiles, and sadly, as we truly, and from the bottom of our hearts, as Vice President J.D. Vance mentioning in that fireside chat today, give our deepest condolences and prayers to the Cheney family. But there is a very different thing to recognize on this day, November 20th, that the people gathered there at the funeral have a deep belief in bombing and then asking questions later, of creating turmoil, of trying to find weapons of mass destruction based on faulty intelligence that end up leading to countless lives lost, sectarian violence, ISIS, ultimately in a caliphate that dominated the Middle East under the Obama and Otto Penn administrations. But that was all thanks to the George W. Bush administration. This new Republican movement of MAGA reflects more deeply of what President Nixon and President Reagan worked on when they were in their respective tenures of peace, of dialoguing, even if you disagree with the person on the other side of the table, to try and understand where they are coming from. That's the focus of this developer turned commander-in-chief, President Trump. It's about knowing where his nemesis might be standing, where a friend or foe might disagree, but ultimately bringing the world to peace. As President Kennedy once stated, as the late Attorney General and Senator, his brother, Robert Kennedy Sr., mentioning that it takes true masculinity. It takes a true leader to seek peace, a lasting peace. And this president is culminating that in the cabinet and the people he's surrounded himself with as subject matter experts seeking to make America great again. And part of that is financial prosperity around the world with the use of tariffs, bringing billions, if not trillions of dollars back to the United States. And I'm excited to see how that will develop into Q1 and Q2 of 2026, as Secretary Scott Bessent has mentioned in countless interviews, that just wait and see what will happen with the economy in the next few months. Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has asked North Texas law enforcement officials to alert his office of criminal violations by Sharia tribunals. In case you missed it, the governor of the Lone Star State, considering some surrounding these Sharia tribunals to now be foreign terrorist organizations. We'll dive deep into that later on this hour with Congressman Keith Self from the 3rd District of Texas, as he gave quite a fiery speech on the House floor in regards to what is Sharia law and how it ultimately is incompatible with the American Constitution. Again, this unholy triumvirate of communism, globalism, Islamism that is trying to usurp our constitutional experiment here at home. And now President Trump meeting with Mr. Mamdani, the mayor-elect, who believes in these so-called values of the far left, these combinations that you can find at the United Nations or sometimes in our bigger, bluer cities across the country. We have Mayor Brandon Johnson, who is seeking the assistance of the United Nations to investigate law enforcement and ICE in the city of Chicago. Rather ridiculous considering how much safer the city is now since Operation Midway Blitz. Well, it's that time of year again. You can have the change in temperatures, the falling leaves. It could be beautiful, or you get those dreary days like we're seeing in Washington, D.C. right now. But don't let sickness ruin your holidays and your celebration 1 week away from today with all of the football, the family, the friends, and the faith that creates that warmth, even if it's perhaps as good as your mom's cooking, which will take place next week. But code RSBN10, RSBN10 to keep you safe and healthy for the holiday season. Over 300 essential medications, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, methylene blue, NAD+, and antibacterials, antivirals, also Tamiflu, and emergency medical kits that you can take on the road with you with code RSBN10. That's RSBN10, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code right now for all of this life-saving medication, because as the online leading pharmacy in America, All Family Pharmacy committed to your right to choose, your freedom in all of that. And some of these generics are not valued by big pharmacies, by big pharma in general. So they want to make sure you have it on hand. No insurance, no issue, no red tape, no bureaucracy. Simply a pharmaceutical note reviewed by a U.S. doctor and sent directly to your door. Safe, secure, and properly done at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10. Scan the QR code right now for the savings. Monetary gold. It's wealth preservation. It's your savings, your retirement, your pensions, everything you worked hard for, and diversifying that in gold and silver. Now up by $4,500 an ounce. That's gold. Silver not far behind at $50, that rate per ounce. RSBNforthegold.com. Ask how you can eliminate those IRA fees permanently for life, because some people don't want to do this because of those pesky fees. Just another thing to spend thousands on. But this team knows how to arrange that private and secure plan for you, whether it's buying up another property, buying that first property, or creating that generational wealth, or as Scott Shanae mentioned via the interview moments ago, what great grandparents or parents or even Santa Claus to put gold and silver literally in the stocking with Monetary Gold, the leader in wealth preservation. Ask how they can eliminate those annual IRA fees for you permanently for life at RSBNforthegold.com. Grab that complimentary presidential gold guide. As President Trump said during the first campaign 2016, what the hell do you have to lose? Nothing. Diversify now as BRICS nations divest from the American dollar, as the American dollar has lost 40% of its buying power in 2 decades. We're not even printing pennies anymore. We're using copper for other things because it would cost 3.7 cents to produce even 1 penny. It's called inflation. So we don't want any more of that for you and your household. But Monetary Gold, they can help you with that. RSBNforthegold.com. And thank you as well to Kalshi.com/RSBN. With that saved wealth, you can make some trades and bets. Who will President Trump pardon this year? Will Bitcoin hit 150K before March Madness? Kalshi.com/RSBN for all of your questions on things like who will win the Iron Bowl coming up a week from Saturday. Will it be the Alabama? Will Roll Tide happen? Or will it be the War Eagle Tigers of Auburn? A great competition here in the loveliest village on the plains. I'll be sure watching that, as I'm sure you'll be watching your favorite teams as we get into the stretch of college football and the pro football on the weekend. Kalshi.com/RSBN. Sports, politics, music, and more. Everything there for you. Trade on anything. It's the American experiment. You might as well put a trade or a bet on it. Kalshi.com/RSBN. As First Lady Melania Trump also enjoying a trip with the Second Lady, Usha Vance, to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina yesterday. Their first joint trip together as first and second ladies, and giving some really warm words to our Marines and sending even more well wishes from Marine veteran J.D. Vance, the 50th Vice President of the United States and the first Vice President to be a Marine veteran. And for the children there, those military brats, some don't necessarily grow up knowing or calling one place home, but rather also putting on that proverbial uniform as families serve together, as mom and dad really share their time, talent, their treasure to protect this great nation, as we see military numbers ramping up in recruitment thanks to this administration, thanks to the leadership of the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and the Pentagon. We could toss it there now to yesterday's events at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
That's it, Marines. Well done. Hey, we need to show our guests that we're really excited to be here today. And thank you all for coming out and taking the time. I have some prepared remarks, but I want to move through them very, very quickly. But I do want to recognize our DVs taking time out of their schedule today to be here. Brigadier General Joel Schmidt, representing MEF as the MEF deputy. Thank you, and your bride, Lisa. Appreciate it. Brigadier General Mara Hennigan and her husband, Joe, from our MLG. Thank you both for joining me as dear friends. Mrs. Krista Huntley here. Thank you so much for representing MARSOC while General Huntley is away, ma'am. Appreciate you. And then Miss Lisa Worth, thank you so much for representing General Worth as our JTF is taking care of business out there, joining my bride Mila all day long. Thank you all. At this time, I want to take a moment to thank a few more folks. First of all, 2nd Marine Division Band. I mean, you can't beat that. Thank you all. Well done. As I look out in the audience and see many of our colonel commanders and their spouses representing the colonels who might not be here today, thank you all very much for your support, as always, as well as our senior enlisted, so thank you all. And then additionally, you may not know this, but the First and Second Lady visited 2 of our schools here at Camp Lejeune today. First at Lejeune High School, and then at DeLilio here on New River. So to our superintendent, Dr. Andy Marr, I know you're out here. Thanks very much. And then Ryan Smith, Superintendent Smith, for coming today. You all knocked it out of the ballpark, I hear. Thank you. And then our very own school liaisons, Miss Julie and Miss Megan, are here, who did all that work, right, to get the schools kept informed. So thank you, ladies, very much for what you do every day. As I said, our schools made us very proud today, as I'm hearing back there from our actual guests. As you know, today is a special day for Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune and Air Station New River. As we enter the Thanksgiving holiday, a season centered on gratitude, it is deeply meaningful to welcome the First and Second Ladies who have come here for exactly that purpose, to express gratitude to our installation, to our Marine Corps, to our Marine sailors and their families, and shine an important light on the strength of our Marines and sailors, and especially on the resilience of our military families. Both our distinguished guests have had a unique opportunity to spend time with the students at both schools and assembling USO care packages. So I'd also like to thank our USO folks who are here today, because they not only provided the refreshments here, but all that went into the care packages that will go out to our 22nd MEU Marines. While at our schools, the First and Second Ladies got to see the creativity of our students in the nationwide AI challenge and help our youngsters learn with a Thanksgiving craft. So what a great time they had. Those moments matter because they show our families that their service and sacrifices are seen and appreciated, as their presence brings attention to the sacrifices our families make every day in defense of our great nation. I can tell you that both the First Lady and the Second Lady were introduced to many of our military spouses and children today at both schools, where they were able to experience firsthand the enthusiasm and pride our families share in their Marines and sailors. And now, here in this hangar, they're going to be surrounded by the proud Carolina Marine Air Ground Task Force. These aircraft, these vehicles, and you Marines represent the full spectrum of combat power our nation demands we be ready to project at the time and place of her choosing, every single day without exception. What you see around you is readiness, and what stands behind that readiness are families who serve right alongside their Marines and sailors, so thank you all. On behalf of Marine Corps Installations East, thank you Mrs. Trump and Ms. Vance for taking the time to highlight that service, especially for those who will spend this holiday season while their loved ones are forward deployed around this globe in harm's way. As we celebrate today, approximately 34% of the Marines are forward stationed or deployed in harm's way tonight. And personally, I want to thank Mrs. Vance, not only for being here, but for the perspective she brings as the spouse of a former Marine no longer in uniform in her own right. One who has heard her husband's stories and understand what service demands. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my true honor to introduce the Second Lady of the United States, Ms. Usha Vance. Happy 250th Marines Semper Fidelis.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that beautiful introduction and the music. It's such an honor to be here with you at Camp Lejeune, home of some of the finest Marines and military families in our nation. And for me, it's particularly special to be right around the corner from Cherry Point, where my husband JD was stationed. He's told me so many stories about his time in Eastern North Carolina that this feels like home. And of course, it's only a few days late, but I have a message for all of you from JD. Happy birthday. 250 years looks good on all of you. We are so grateful to you for carrying on the Marine Corps' proud traditions of duty, honor, and service. As JD said recently at Camp Pendleton, where we went to celebrate the birthday, Marines embody boldness in action, unity in purpose, and a lightning readiness to go wherever the nation requires. It's not just our Marines, though. Today, I've had the privilege of spending time with your families at the elementary and high schools on base. At a time when children around the country are struggling, it is so heartening to see thriving schools and engaged students. And in my own work, as I've been working on reversing the declining literacy rates and disengagement that we see in schools, DODIA schools and military families are just a shining example and have been among my best partners. I'm so impressed by your commitment to building strong communities and schools. Military families are truly a model for our country and for my own family as we are in our life of public service today. So today, without further ado, I am honored to introduce our First Lady, who shares my deep gratitude for your sacrifices to secure our country's safety and its well-being. The First Lady is committed to bettering our nation by ensuring that every child feels loved, supported, and prepared for the future. Her recent accomplishments include protecting children online through the passage of the Be Better Act and providing opportunities for children in foster care. Most recently, she championed an executive order fostering the future for American children and families to help those children as they transition into adulthood. Please join me in welcoming the First Lady of the United States, Mrs. Melania Trump.
Good afternoon, Camp Lejeune. Thank you, Usha, for that kind introduction. To General Rizzo for your warm welcome here today. It has been a memorable day and an honor to meet the men and women of the United States Marine Corps. Last week, the Marine Corps celebrated 250 years of service, 2.5 centuries of courage, tradition, and excellence. To you and your families who give so much for our country, thank you. Technology is changing the art of war. Predictably, AI will alter war more profoundly than any technology since nuclear weapons. The most significant change will be speed. Speed in weaponry, decision-making, detection, attack, and defense. Artificial intelligence will take center stage in the theater of war. It already plays a meaningful role on the battlefield. Of course, it is the Marine who will always play the most critical role in realizing mission success. Before I continue, I would like to take a moment to welcome to the stage 2 outstanding Marines who are being recognized for their service. Sergeant Blake Donner, the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit Warrior of the Month, and Corporal Daishimari Cannon, the Marine Medium Field Trader, Shurdon 365 NCO of the quarter. Marine Corps Air Station New River serves as a leading site for aviation, seamlessly combining state-of-the-art aircraft, training, and response capabilities along the East Coast of the United States, a vital asset for America's security. Technology is at the core of New River and will guide its evolution. Artificial intelligence is propelling America's military into a new era. We are moving from human operators to human overseers fast. The shift from soldiers to machines is already underway. Autonomous helicopters, swarming drones, and recon aircraft are here now. Fighter-less jets and autonomous bombers are on the way. To win the AI war, we must train our next generation, for it's America's students who will lead the Marine Corps in the future. Lejeune High School demonstrated today that it's ready to lead. Its mission: educate, engage, and empower each student to succeed in a dynamic world, is more than a slogan. The school's ecosystem of educators, administrators, parents, and students is poised to drive innovation for America. They have fully embraced the Presidential Artificial Intelligence Challenge, showcasing creativity and technical vision for the future of AI. Their dedication to learning and their commitment to our country is inspiring. The Lejeune and the New River community impressed me today. Military families are the quiet strength of our nation. Your love, patience, and courage give our service members the confidence to serve with honor and the comfort of knowing home is always waiting. As Thanksgiving approaches, families across America will come together. But for many of you, someone you love will be serving far from home. Please know that our nation is thinking of you, praying for you, and deeply grateful for your service. To every service member, thank you for standing watch so others can celebrate in peace. And to every military spouse and child, thank you for your strength and love. You serve our country too. This month and every month, America remains grateful for your service, your sacrifice, and your spirit. As we give thanks to this season, let us remember what unites us: our shared love of country, our faith in one another, and our pride in those who serve. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
And as we celebrate the First Lady and Second Lady enjoying their time at Camp Lejeune yesterday, another happy birthday to our Marine Corps, 250 years young. Joining us now, it's Congressman Keith Self of the 3rd District of Texas. And it's Texas Day at the Capitol. Thank you for joining us, sir. You had quite a fiery, but I think robust and informative speech on the House floor regarding Sharia law. And we know as well your Governor, Greg Abbott, recently signing a law that bars Sharia compounds. So these organizations and residential developments that would impose religious rules, think of almost an HOA, but on those residents under Sharia law, which is usurping the authority of the United States Constitution and the Texas Constitution. Can you dive into not only your speech, but why Sharia can present such a problem in America?
Well, my speech covered the legality of Sharia. There are distinct elements that Sharia does not comport with the U.S. Constitution or U.S. law. I specifically mentioned the 13th Amendment, slavery. I specifically mentioned the 6th Amendment, an impartial jury. And I specifically mentioned the First Amendment for freedom of speech. There are elements of this legal system known as Sharia that do not comport with U.S. law. I then mentioned some others, such as child marriage, spousal abuse that's condoned. So there are other individuals as well. But that was my point. Sharia is a complete civilization. I'm reminded, and during the speech I said this, the Muslim lawyer in a U.S. court that said Islam is Sharia, Sharia is Islam, the two cannot be separated. It is a very strict legal code. Now, the governor signed the bill that you referred to several months ago, and yesterday he declared both the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE as terrorist organizations. So this is an important step. But I will tell you, both my speech and the governor's actions are words. Now we have to enforce it. And I really encourage citizens not to be intimidated, because Sharia is a legal code of intimidation against those that do not follow Sharia.
And we've seen this in Dearborn, Michigan, and some of these other areas of the country, including Minnesota as well, because it's backed up by far left policies in deep blue states. And I talk often, Congressman, on this unholy triumvirate we're experiencing of communism, globalism, Islamism, and not that those who practice the faith are not welcome nor allowed to be here in America, but it's the following of what you mentioned, Sharia, and that hardline basis that goes completely against American constitutional law. Now we have a mayor-elect in New York City who seems to follow these things, and he's going to meet with President Trump tomorrow. Mr. Mamdani, what are some of your concerns for New York City and potentially 2026 as we see more of these far-left socialist and candidates coming about that seem to hold these deeply disturbing views?
Well, I certainly hope that the New York City election is a wake-up call for America. because we've kind of watched Dearborn be consumed by this. But New York City is the financial capital of the world, along with London. So this could be very devastating. Frankly, in my area, Dallas may become, instead of Wall Street, we may have everybody move to Y'all Street. And I will tell you that I think that this is a wake-up call, as I said, for America. Because look, even the moderate Muslims, and people talk to me about moderate Muslims all the time, they are considered apostates under Sharia, liable for death. So at some point, if the civilization jihad that they talk about is conducted, then they will probably submit to the civilization jihad. And I want to add that this is not theory. The FBI found the explanatory memorandum by the Muslim Brotherhood in 2004 in Maryland, and it is the plan for going forward to conquer North America.
Yes, and through our elections. So that's quite important that you bring that up, Congressman, that it is not a Republican right-wing talking point, as some other networks might mention. We'll dive in here at the right side of history where those breadcrumbs lead. And internationally, we look at Sudan and Nigeria. President Trump very concerned about this. Is there a congressional response to the Christian genocide that takes place in Africa and the Middle East, something that the Crown Prince and Prime Minister of even Saudi Arabia shares in President Trump's concerns?
Yes, there definitely is. And look, the government of Nigeria is trying to put this off, but it is definitely, when you look at the percentages, the Christians in Nigeria are being killed at a greater percentage. It is definitely against the Christians in Nigeria. And yes, there are bills in Congress working their way through now that address this. And frankly, there may be a codel to Nigeria. I'm not going to give more than that, but one of my colleagues is working on a codel to go to Nigeria just before Christmas, because if you remember back to the Christmas massacre several years ago, we want to go there as a message. So yes, Congress is very concerned about this, very aware of it, and are taking steps.
Can you pass resolutions, or what can you do specifically bill-wise to take a strong stand against this, not only domestically, but throughout the world?
We can pass resolutions, but again, what we do is mainly messaging. We need enforcement, and that's the executive branch. I'm very pleased that President Trump has taken a note of this, and I hope that he will follow through. Now, you may remember that Nigeria is now a country of particular concern, which is a very strong statement by the administration. It says that they are watching what's going on. So we need to use the bully pulpit that the U.S. has around the world. Now, I chair the Europe subcommittee, but there are subcommittee chairmen that are taking the bully pulpit. The president is taking the bully pulpit to make sure that the world knows that we are standing against this.
Yes, and we appreciate that immensely, standing for religious liberty in this country. Now, the Epstein files passing overwhelmingly. Only Clay Higgins, the Republican congressman from Louisiana, voting no on the specific concerns that the speaker and Republican leadership seem to have on the releasing of potentially, if this happens in the future, that victims could be exploited potentially. And then the Senate had, of course, that unanimous voice vote that led to President Trump's signature just yesterday. But it seems as if your Democrat colleagues, from Ms. Plaskett, the delegate in the Virgin Islands, to Representative Chairfullis McCormick, with the misuse of FEMA aid of around $5 million, allegedly, could lead up to a 53-year prison sentence if she is ultimately found guilty, but being indicted there. And Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, with emails apparently soliciting funds from the convicted sex offender back in 2013. What say you with all this? Is there still stuff to dig up and find out? And how can we move forward from an individual who seems to be making news headlines even after his death?
Well, frankly, what we passed is a demand for more transparency. Yes, there are issues with what we passed yesterday, but we did pass it, and it went to the president's desk, and he signed it. Now, the Oversight Committee in Congress is doing a better job, a deeper dig into exactly what Epstein was about. So I think that they will come up with a stronger bill but look, the people that say the victims are going to be uncovered because of the one that we passed yesterday, you should have seen the gallery in the House when we passed it. There were at least 50 people up there that were applauding our efforts. And they were victims themselves and certainly some family members as well. So we want transparency, and that's what that bill did. Were there some problems with it, as the speaker has laid out? Yes, but we are starting to move forward with transparency. I believe the Oversight Committee will do a better job of getting to the bottom of it with their investigation powers.
And Chairman Comer speaking to that he will treat the Clintons, the former president and secretary of state, like Steve Bannon was treated under the Democrats. And if they ignore a congressional subpoena, it may cause troubles legally down the road. So we'll watch that closely, Congressman, as I'm going to rattle off some great successes. 10 months since President Trump took office and the Republican Congress since January 3rd of this year, 119,000 jobs added in September, the biggest tax cuts in U.S. history with the One Big Beautiful Bill, a strong and secure border. Your state, every state's a border state, but Texas right there big time, especially those districts right up against the Mexican border. Safer cities, massive regulatory reform, slash prices on prescriptions, and rooting out the waste, fraud, and abuse. So are you concerned at all that some Republican colleagues trying to censure one another and the 11th commandment, we see this kind of battle and war of words the past 10 days. Is it a concern going into the Thanksgiving holiday?
Well, certainly it is, but there are things going on that we need to hold the line in terms of decorum and legality in Congress. Look, this is why the Senate is talking about doing away with the cloture vote. This is not the world of 10 years ago, of 15 years ago. We now have a Democrat Party that is basically the party of chaos and destruction. We could go through the issues, but we have to stand against that. Now, in the Republican Party, I understand your concern, and I am very carefully with my office going through precedent when we talk about censuring colleagues. So I will make very careful votes as we move forward.
Yes, and with that as well, we have a potential for outlawing insider trading. Representative Anna Polina Luna speaking to that Mr. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, mentioning to her they're going to move forward on that because we've seen a lot of that, especially from the last speaker, Miss Nancy Pelosi, taking advantage and becoming very handsomely wealthy after being in Congress. Where do you stand on this, and do you see this being a big vote in the upcoming session?
I will vote for that to do away with insider trading in a Texas minute. This will be a strong vote, and I believe that it will pass. The people that say they might need to tap into their funds for their children's education, put it in a blind trust and use it out of a blind trust. But do not have control of it. Do not do insider trading. Don't even be able to do insider trading. This would go a long way to restoring the faith of the American people in the U.S. Congress. I think we ought to do it, and I think we ought to do it as soon as possible.
Congressman Keith Self of the 3rd District of Texas, a very happy Texas Day to you, sir, at the Capitol, and a happy Thanksgiving. Please come back and see us soon on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thank you very much.
And as we break down the latest news here at RSBN, roughly 17 minutes from now, we will have the superstar Karoline Leavitt, the press secretary, right there at the White House to hold a press briefing at the top of the hour. We'll take a quick commercial break, stay at the right side of history, and check out this amazing company, Brightcore, with their Kimchi One.
The FDA says it's keeping Americans safe, but when government power goes unchecked, it's our freedom and our health that pay the price. They say they're protecting and promoting public health, but the U.S. has some of the worst health outcomes in the world, including lowered life expectancy, increased infant mortality, and higher rates of chronic health conditions. Because while bureaucrats and corporations pat each other on the back, the truth is, America's being poisoned. No one can avoid it. Our food and water are filled with toxins, preservatives, and microplastics that leach into everything we eat. From plastic cutting boards and nonstick pans to healthy produce sprayed with sludge, Americans are unknowingly exposed to hazards every day. One study showed the average person has the equivalent of a plastic spoon in their brain. Another study showed that 88% of food and water samples tested contain significant amounts of microplastics. Once these microplastics enter your body, they don't pass through harmlessly. They trigger constant inflammation and disrupt your biome, which devastates your immune system and your body's natural ability to defend itself. They carry toxic additives and heavy metals that leach into your bloodstream, disrupting your hormones, damaging DNA, and accelerating aging from the inside out. Doctors are finding links between microplastic exposure and infertility, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, and early cognitive decline. And the truth is, your body can't get rid of them. Recently, researchers studying traditional Korean kimchi discovered something incredible. A probiotic strain called Bacillus pumilis, found only in kimchi, can actually degrade BPA. In the lab, these bacteria were shown to break down BPA into harmless components, literally digesting one of the most persistent plastic toxins known to science. And the source? Kimchi, a food that's been part of human diets for over 2,000 years, full of wisdom and fermentation. It's proof that sometimes the answers to modern problems aren't found in more chemicals or pills, but in the power of nature itself. Kimchi is one of the world's most powerful superfoods, but daily consumption is key to yielding its health benefits. That's why Brightcore created Kimchi One, to give you all the benefits of premium fermented kimchi in a convenient capsule form. No mess, no taste, no hassle. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains, live enzymes, and antioxidants that help restore balance in your gut and health to the rest of your body. People are seeing improvements in digestion, energy, even cardiovascular and brain health. Studies show that kimchi reduces body fat by over 31%, promotes smaller waistlines, and lowers BMI. Kimchi One is all natural, non-GMO, dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free, and 100% made in the USA, so just about anyone can take it. Store-bought kimchi tends to be high in sodium, as where Kimchi One contains virtually no sodium. In a world full of plastic, give your body the protection it needs.
I have some of this in my cabinet. I also love kimchi, but Kimchi One, I mean, the best product you can have as a supplement from Brightcore. Save up to 50% off plus free shipping only when you call 888-722-0936. Get 25% off with code RSBN, mybrightcore.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code there now. It's all health. Starts in the gut. When you feel that sluggish, that tired, it probably is somewhat of a gut issue. It affects everything else. Foggy thoughts to just not being able to get through your day. And Kimchi One will literally turn it around for you. It happened for me, and I'm sure it can happen for you, the good viewers here at Right Side Broadcasting Network as well. Again, 25% off with code RSBN via mybrightcore.com/RSBN. But call today, 50% off plus free shipping. That is quite the deal. As we thank Brightcore, made in the USA, Kimchi One dominating in making America healthy again. As we see, the James S. Brady briefing room is online. It is ready to go. The location of the old White House swimming pool, but now revamped for press briefings, which has been more packed and more busy, I would say, in 10 months of this administration than all of the prior administration. There's no question about that. As the press secretary herself, the superstar, Karoline Leavitt, to hold a briefing in roughly 11 minutes from now. In the meantime, President Trump signing the law to release the Epstein files and taking to Truth Social about that in a long talk on Jeffrey Epstein, who was charged by the Trump Justice Department in 2019, not the Democrats, was a lifelong Democrat, donated thousands of dollars to Democrat politicians, and was deeply associated with many well-known Democrat figures, such as Bill Clinton, who traveled on his plane 26 times, Larry Summers, who just resigned from the boards, including Harvard, sleazebag political activist Reid Hoffman, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who asked Epstein to donate to his campaign after Epstein was charged. I mean, it's amazing when you think about that. Democrat Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett and many, many more. Perhaps the truth about these Democrats and their associations with Jeffrey Epstein will soon be revealed, because I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. As everyone knows, I asked Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune to pass this bill in the House and the Senate respectively. Because of this request, the votes were almost unanimous in favor of the passage. At my direction, the Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. Do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever even ask or speak about him. So Democrats have used the Epstein issue, which affects them far more than the Republican Party, in order to try and distract from our amazing victories, including the great, big, beautiful tax cut bill, strong borders, no men in women's sports, no transgender for everyone, ending the DEI, stopping Biden's record-setting inflation, lowering prices, the biggest tax cut and regulation cuts in all of American history, ending 8 wars, rebuilding the military, knocking out Iran's nuclear capabilities, getting trillions of dollars invested in the USA, creating the hottest country anywhere in the world, and even delivering a huge defeat for the Democrats on the recent shutdown disaster. For years, our great nation has had to endure Russia, 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 Ukraine, 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 impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, and many other Democrat-created witch hunt scams, all of which have been so terrible and divisive for our country, and have been done to confuse, deflect, distract from the great job that Republicans and the Trump administration are doing. This latest hoax will backfire on the Democrats, just as all has before. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. President Trump, in his way, has such a clear way of describing exactly what's happening. And this fires me up as well, because when you really break it down, it is this far-left Democrat cabal that you saw 43 days the government was shut down. And in the past, you could blame, I'll give you an example here. Going back to 2013, even prior to that in 2008, plenty of blame to go around with the 43rd and 44th presidents, respectfully, and as well with the Congress at the time. I mean, John Boehner and Barack Obama could not sit down to work on anything unless it was to have a cigarette and a glass of wine, as they did when he was leaving office. But these Democrats shut down the government, namely Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, because he is afraid of his own base. He's been in office since 1981 and wants to remain in that seat. Term limits, anyone? Actually, what do you think about that? Term limits. Write in to feedback at rsbn.tv, rsbn.tv. I'd like to hear from the American people regarding that, because most states have figured out one way or the other to have limits for their legislatures or even for governors to other offices. Our president is limited to 2 terms, post FDR's 4 terms being reelected back to back to back and then passing away in office. So what do you think about that? Term limits for Congress, feedback at rsbn.tv. As we have seen from the White House, the jobs report, a very good thing, showing private sector gains, wage growth for American-born workers. The September jobs report more than doubled market expectations, according to the White House, adding 119,000 new jobs to the American economy, in stark contrast to the disastrous auto pen economy. Almost all of these new jobs were in the private sector, and were of American-born workers instead of illegal aliens. Now, wages for workers are continuing to rise, a reversal from the Biden years where private sector wages declined by about $3,000 because of the Democrats' inflation crisis. Now, this strong report is more proof that President Trump's pro-growth, America First agenda is already making great progress, and it will continue to deliver positive results for the American families and businesses, to quote White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, who we'll see roughly minutes from now. Truly, as it mentions down there, the blockbuster jobs report from September. Well, it's this time of year again as we gather together to celebrate our faith, our family, some football, and the friends who will be gathering together this holiday season. Do not let sickness steal your Thanksgiving, your Hanukkah, your Christmas. So stock up now with code RSBN10, 10% off your order at the leading online pharmacy known as All Family Pharmacy. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN that wants you to have these life-saving medications, over 300 in fact, ready to go for you. Because it might be Walgreens, CVS, another big box store, and, great places to go, but they don't have things like ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, methylene blue, NAD+. And this is also a place that does not mind if you have insurance or not. They're not into the insurers. They're into making America healthy again. All being reviewed by a U.S. doctor right here in America and sent to your door. Cost-effective, secure, safe, and proper with Tamiflu, antibiotics, antivirals, also emergency medical kits that you could take on the road with you to keep you and your loved ones safe this holiday season. Allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10. That's RSBN10. Scan the QR code there now for all of this life-saving and cost-effective generic medication that can make a massive difference for you and your family. Thank you as well to Monetary Gold. It's wealth security preservation. It's grabbing that complimentary presidential gold guide today and asking how you can eliminate those IRA fees permanently for life. Visit rsbnforthegold.com, rsbnforthegold.com, or call 888-617-7994. That's 888-617-7994 for gold and silver. It's no coincidence. It's actually logic at this point, as banks have failed this year. Two major banks, in fact. BRICS nations divesting from the American dollar. Central banks building up their currencies with gold and silver. They're literally stockpiling it. And you have to ask yourself why that is. Well, gold going up by over $4,500 an ounce. Silver not far behind at $50. A bull market for gold and silver. And our friend Robert Kiyosaki warning us of this trend that inflation was a big problem during the Autopen administration. Almost 500 banks closed their doors under the Barack Hussein Obama presidency from 2009 to 2017. That was on the cusp of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and George W. Bush, to quote the 43rd president, leaving behind his conservative and capitalist values in order to, quote unquote, save the economy. But they bailed out Wall Street. They bailed out the big guys. And they left Main Street just to, lose its capital power, to lose its buying power, to lose jobs. It was a sad time to watch as I was entering into my college years then. It was a scary time in the economy. And any of that can happen again with the American dollar losing 40% of its value in purchasing in the last 2 decades. So this is not something that's a luxury anymore. It's more of really something you should do. Monetary Gold, best in the business. Diversify in gold and silver for that first property, generational wealth, whatever it might be. They'll craft a plan for you at rsbnforthegold.com. And also this time of year can bring those cold temperatures and that dry air and that crackly, nasty skin. So I use Miracle Cream, the vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals, to keep my skin as healthy as possible. There's the orange option as well. that is vitamin C infused, non-GMO, no chemicals, in addition to that great product, and a facial spray so you can paint the town red, whether it's that first date, that 50th wedding anniversary, or anywhere in between. This Christian-owned company that hires veterans wants you to experience the miracle that is out of the Lone Star State, Spring, Texas, to be precise, right outside of Houston, along that Gulf of America, aptly renamed over the last 10 months as we celebrate 10 months to the day, President Trump being sworn in to office for his second term. Experience the miracle that is angelpace.com. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we approach that 1 o'clock hour on the East Coast. So a good afternoon to you East Coasters and Midwesterners, and for our friends in the mountain states and that golden coast of California out west, a very good morning, America. I'm Robert McNeely. It's always wonderful to be with you here at Right Side Broadcasting Network on the live desk, especially for Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt and her press briefings. They are informative. They are fun. They are for politicos like us. It's like watching a football playoff game leading to the Super Bowl, if you will. So I'll digress. Maybe you disagree with me there. Maybe it's not as exciting for you, but I love it so much to watch what this administration is doing. The government you put into place back on November 5th of last year as a jobs report skyrocketing with 119,000 private sector jobs being reported as it shattered expectations once again. Americans are joining that workforce, the military succeeding its numbers and its recruitment arenas, as well as an economy that can really shine come Q1 or Q2 of next year, according to Secretary Scott Bessent. Now, here's what you need to know. The September's job report more than doubled economists' expectations. The job growth was driven almost entirely by private sector job gains of 97,000, including 43,000 new jobs in the healthcare sector, 19,000 new jobs in the construction sector. American wages up 3.8% over the year. Since President Trump took office, workers' real wages are up $700 and are on track for a $1,000 increase after his first year, so post-January of 2026, meaning Americans are on track to make up 1/3 of the $3,000 wage loss that was under the Biden administration. Americans are working. The labor force participation increased, average weekly hours for production workers increased, and long-term unemployment fell sharply. Proof that a growing share of the American people see the opportunity in President Trump's economic comeback tour. Now, under President Trump, all job gains have gone to native-born Americans, reversing the Biden-era trend. Over the past year, more than 2.5 million native-born Americans gained employment, while 670,000 foreign-born workers lost employment. Now, economists got it wrong again. In fact, the jobs increase beat all 67 forecasts in the Bloomberg survey. Another amazing statistic when you really break that down. There is more good news to come, with the Atlanta Fed GDP Now model now projecting blockbuster 4.2% GDP growth, a figure for the third quarter. That means more jobs and higher incomes for Americans. So here's what they're saying out there. Economist Steve Moore: I think people are underhyping this economy big time. I mean, we're seeing huge investment numbers. We're seeing great consumer spending numbers. I am very happy about this report, and I think investors should be too. ABC actually mentioned heading into this historic government shutdown, the job market was healthier than we thought. The expectations was initially 50,000 new jobs to be added in the month of September. We got more than double of that. CNBC stating that this report really bolsters the case for the hawks on the FOMC, who have said they do not see serious deterioration in the labor market. A robust report. Bloomberg, that's a big upside surprise on the headline number. Yeah, because 67 surveys were wrong, according to your company. Strategic Wealth Partners CEO Mark Tepper, not only is the consumer still spending in America, the consumer is paying their bills on time. When you look at credit card delinquencies, they're only at 1.3% and they're ticking lower. That's a good situation for the overall economy. The New York Times, employers notched a very respectable month of hiring in September. They went on to say much, much stronger than expected. And the Wall Street Journal saying that hiring defied expectations in September with 119,000 new jobs. And ABC once again stating that jobs report blows past expectations, defying hiring slowdown. CNBC, the delayed September report shows the U.S. added 119,000 jobs, more than expected. And CBS News, finally, employers added 119,000 jobs, blowing past expectations, as we thank covepure.com/RSBN. The holiday sale, it's right around the corner. Actually, it's right here. So why not jump at it now before the hustle and bustle of the Christmas season? $250 off. And you might have that person, God knows I have a couple of them in my family. It's like, what do you get for that individual? Well, covepure.com/RSBN is specifically great for those who are not drinking enough water, who are really relying on those sugary sodas. And it's like, my goodness, you wonder why you have headaches. I actually have a friend. He wakes up every morning, doesn't like coffee, and has these terrible headaches. So he starts his day with Pepsis and Cokes. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's not going to be good over a period of time. Water can change that for you, especially good, clean water like covepure.com/RSBN. So what they have here is their clear wave technology. 99.9% of the fluoride, the pesticides, the agricultural runoff, and the poisons coming out of the water with this machine. And it's no larger than the coffee maker you probably have on your kitchen counter. Here's what's also good. If you have a family member or a friend who is renting, there's a lot of renters out there in the economy still. There's no need for a plumber to come over or anyone to install pipes or tubes or anything like that. What you see is what you get right there. Everything is inserted with the reverse osmosis technology that is in the covepure.com system. You can see it right there. And this is deeply disturbing. JAMA Pediatrics putting out that study that children, students drinking from the tap water on a regular basis lose more than 2 points in their IQ. You can't have that. But also for convenience, many of you perhaps enjoy tea. I enjoy tea every once in a while. I'm a big coffee drinker, but tea is good here and there. You have to wait for it to steep, and then it could take a few minutes. This instantly delivers hot water if you want that. So make your tea faster on the go with covepure.com/RSBN, and make sure you have that drinking pure, living pure, everything pure. It's good to be pure. covepure.com/RSBN, $250 off right now. Protect what matters most. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we are watching the upcoming press briefing with Karoline Leavitt. Dive into crypto.com today. Join a historic movement in a bull market unlike any other. It's online as these digital currencies becoming something you might see in the news more often than not, whether it's the federal move for it, which is a bit scary because there's some institutions that want to move us completely digital. Then you won't have any control over your money. But with Trump Media Group, a CRO strategy doing it privately to enhance the American consumer with crypto.com. This is a historic deal at $6.4 billion from the people who brought you True Social. It's Trump Media Group teaming up with crypto.com. Join the historic movement today. Visit crypto.com and see where you can play in this space. Will Bitcoin hit that 150,000 mark? We asked that at Kalshi.com. It's worth noting because by March Madness, crypto.com can be a huge team player for you and the diversification of your income. And there's no better company out there than the Trump Media Group, and a group that I was happy to be part of to start up Truth Social a few years ago and fight for free speech online. So many of them said, out there in the media circles. It cannot be done, but the roughly 50 of us got it done, and I'm sure this group will continue to do that for you with the biggest CRO strategy, teaming up with Crypto.com, a $6.4 billion deal. Let's get ready. Buckle up, grab that popcorn, and join in the diversification of your income via Trump Media Group and Crypto.com today. Also, thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. So many early Black Friday specials. I'm telling you, if I went back into business, I don't know if I could compete with Mike Lindell. He is the master marketer with the My Slippers under $40 at $39.98. Call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. He's throwing in that free leather protectant spray as part of this deal. And these My Slippers, quite comfortable around the house as you get ready to open your Christmas presents. And do you do the whole thing like through the Advent season? Do you open one present a day or have an Advent calendar? I just love the season, and it's made even better with comfortable slippers in your neck of the woods. And thank you to Minnesota's finest, Mike Lindell, who makes everything right here in America. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network with over 2,000 products at the site. MyPillow.com/RSBN, code RSBN. Easy to remember. An early Black Friday special at 10 minutes after the hour. $39.98. MyPillow.com/RSBN. Get those slippers. They are quite fantastic as we are awaiting the superstar, Karoline Leavitt, the press secretary, to hold a press briefing live from the James S. Brady briefing room at the White House in Washington, D.C. In the meantime, we could take a quick commercial break for more sponsors and be right back with you. Don't change that dial. It's Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Every once in a while, something big happens, something that changes everything. And now, in a defining moment for crypto, Trump Media Group and Crypto.com are joining forces to acquire up to $6.4 billion of CRO, launching America's first ever CRO treasury, empowering the Kronos blockchain. This is more than a partnership. It's the future of finance built in America. For more, visit Crypto.com, where millions trade CRO every day.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
President Trump has a laser focus on Sudan and Nigeria with cut number 4, Mr. Producer. He took to Truth Social about his concerns regarding this. We had the opportunity to speak earlier in the broadcast with Congressman Self from the great state of Texas and the concerns about Islamism to globalism and communism. And the communist mayor of New York City, Zoran Kwame Mamdani, has asked for a meeting. We have agreed that this meeting will take place at the Oval Office on Friday, November 21st. That is tomorrow. Further details to come. I'm sure we'll be covering that there for you tomorrow. So get ready for what should be a very interesting meeting, but also the concern with Nigeria and Sudan. The Christian genocide taking place there has been on the hearts and minds of many, many people. As President Trump mentioned, tremendous atrocities happening in that country. It has become the most violent place on earth, and likewise, the single biggest humanitarian crisis. Food, doctors, and everything else are desperately needed. Arab leaders from all over the world, in particular, the highly respected Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who has just left the United States, has asked me, with his power and influence of the presidency, to bring an immediate halt to what is taking place in Sudan. It is considered a great civilization and a culture, unfortunately gone bad, but one that has been fixed or can be fixed with the cooperation and coordination of countries, including those in the regions of tremendous wealth, who want this to happen. We will work with Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and other Middle Eastern partners to get these atrocities to end, while at the same time stabilizing Sudan. Thank you for your attention to this matter. God bless the world. And to give you a preview tonight and for our Thanksgiving special, 2 upcoming episodes of The Voice of Reason, speaking with faith leaders that have helped shape America, from Pastor Will Graham, the grandson of the late, great Billy Graham, the son of Reverend Franklin Graham, speaking to these issues, as well as Father Frank Pavone and what is the response of the Christian, both private and publicly, domestically and abroad, to be the hands and the feet, the eyes and the ears of our Lord and Savior. How are you to react when these evil atrocities happen? And those gentlemen answering those questions. Stay tuned for episode 24 tonight of The Voice of Reason at 6 o'clock Eastern, and for a Thanksgiving special that will be earlier in the week with a set date and time to be announced, with our Thanksgiving special there. We have the doors open, the TV not quite on yet, for the press briefing to take place moments from now at the James S. Brady Briefing Room there in the West Wing of the White House. Karoline Leavitt to present that, as we are getting the tech TVs ready to go, for which is sure to be a very in-depth, very detailed thing this week, because given so much happening at the White House, from the visit from the Crown Prince and Prime Minister to what was $600 billion to now $1 trillion of investments from the Saudis. It could go up to $16 trillion business-wise, as President Trump spoke at that U.S.-Saudi investment forum just yesterday. And famously, the first fry line cook to become president of the United States. If we remember back from McDonald's last year on the campaign trail that week, where President Trump was working on the line at McDonald's to working as a garbage man as well with his orange vest. He brought us smiles, he brought us laughs, but brought the seriousness or the really lack of leadership from the past administration, from former President Joe Biden to the former Vice President Kamala Harris, and 107 days of gaffes and disasters that she detailed in her new book, that autobiography that was probably written by someone else. But as we dive into all of that, President Trump next week will be enjoying Mar-a-Lago, because he seems to be ahead of schedule. As we hope and pray you have safe travels, with, thank God that this Democrat shutdown is over with. So if you're traveling by air, it might be a little bit smoother, but so much to be thankful for in this golden era. Exactly 10 months to the day that President Trump took that second oath of office to become the 47th president of the United States. There's only one other man who achieved this, Democrat Grover Cleveland from Ohio. Ohio being the state that produces the most presidents and vice presidents, and the Buckeye State home to the 50th Vice President, J.D. Vance, where he served in the United States Senate just prior to this appointment by you, the American people, on November 5th of last year. But Grover Cleveland, the only other man who served 2 non-consecutive terms in office. As I read more about Mr. Cleveland, the 22nd and 24th President of the United States, respectively, there are some parallels to that of President Trump. And I learned back when I was working at True Social, we would play in a kickball league at Piedmont Park in Atlanta, a gorgeous park. And that was the location of one of Grover Cleveland's comeback speeches way back in the early 20th century. So there's living history amongst us, my friends, and let's be thankful for that this holiday season as we await the updates and information coming from Karoline Leavitt and the White House press and communications team moments from now. But it is that time of year of thanks for faith and family and football and freedom, all of the big F's in our life. Don't get confused with a failing grade, because allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN is there for you to make sure you don't let the sickness steal your holiday celebrations. And with most of us traveling by air, plane, and sea, wherever we're going, plane, train, automobile, whatever it might be, you don't want to get sick. There's a lot of togetherness, the people sneezing on the plane, and then you got to hold your breath, and well, you know how it goes. It's 300 life-saving medications for you, from ivermectin to hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, Tamiflu, to antibiotics, antivirals, and emergency medical kits that we can have right there for you at your door, all reviewed by a licensed U.S. doctor. No insurance, no hassle, no red tape, no bureaucracy. Just life-saving medication brought to you ethically, safely, and securely right to your door. Scan that QR code there now, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. It's RSBN 10, 10% off of life-saving medication. They believe in the right to choose. So do we here. Freedom matters most in this constitutional experiment known as the United States of America. And your generics, you should have a right to them, and they should be affordable. And this company working hard to do that. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Monetary gold is wealth security preservation. Grab that complimentary presidential gold guide today. Two ways to do that. Visit rsbnforthegold.com or call 888-617-7994. Call immediately. Discover how you can eliminate those IRA fees permanently for life. Again, rsbnforthegold.com. 2 banks failing this year alone. BRICS nations divesting from the dollar, and 40% of the dollar losing its purchasing power in 2 decades. So what are you to do with your savings, your retirement? Affordability, it's been on the minds of Americans. We're seeing that with healthcare prices and some other things that are still, they're up there right now. And by Q1 and Q2, could they come down? Potentially. Absolutely. We're hearing that from Secretary Scott Bessent in the Treasury. But in the meantime, even as gas prices go down and certain specific grocery items, still worth to look into diversifying your assets, whether it's buying that first property, a generational wealth for your family. Monetary gold is the best in the business. rsbnforthegold.com. That's rsbnforthegold.com. Monetary gold, it's no longer a luxury, but I would say it's mandatory to look into it. And what the heck do you have to lose? As President Trump said in 2016, rsbnforthegold.com. We are your go-to live desk, and it's an honor to do that here for you on a daily basis at Right Side Broadcasting Network. But it takes a few mullahs to keep this going, and we'd love to have those so we can do just that for you. Thank you for your generosity. rsbnetwork.com/donate. And now we will toss to the White House and Karoline Leavitt.
Special guest with me today, as you can see, Secretary McMahon. So I will begin my remarks. She's going to speak, and then we'll take some questions. She'll take questions, and I'll take questions from you as well. First off, yesterday, First Lady Melania Trump and Second Lady Usha Vance traveled to Marine Corps Air Station New River in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, where they spent the day meeting with students, educators, military families, and United States Marines. Both the First Lady and Second Lady were grateful for the warm welcome and remain deeply committed to supporting military families and the communities that serve our great nation. May God bless all of them. In economic news, the September jobs report showed the American economy remains strong, with 119,000 new jobs added, more than double expectations. These gains came after the summer passage of President Trump's historic tax cuts and multiple big trade deals with countries around the world. In particular, construction jobs surged by 19,000 in September, the largest monthly gain in a year. Nearly all of this solid monthly job growth came from the private sector and went to Americans rather than foreign-born workers, the opposite of what we saw under the previous administration. Inflation also remains under control, and wages are up by 3.8% over the year for American workers because of President Trump's pro-growth policies. In fact, real wages are on pace to increase roughly $1,200 for the average worker this year under President Trump. This is a complete reversal of the failed Biden era, when we saw inflation skyrocket to 9%, causing private sector workers to see their wages decline by approximately $3,000. We know that Americans are still hurting from the 4-decade high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats. But President Trump is making significant progress to fix this, and he will not stop working until he solves it. As the president recently stated, he is never satisfied. For example, President Trump's policies are working to make Americans' Thanksgiving more affordable this year, from their commute to the dinner table. Nearly 100 million Americans are expected to drive next week to spend time with loved ones for the holiday. And thanks to President Trump's drill baby drill agenda, the national average price of a gallon of gas on Thanksgiving Day is projected to be at the cheapest price since the COVID pandemic in 2021. President Trump is bringing down gas prices and providing significant savings to American families at the pump. And again, we expect those prices to continue to decline. According to the American Farm Bureau Federation's annual survey, cooking Thanksgiving dinner will also cost less this year than it did last year and is down about 5% overall. The average price for a staple of the meal, a 16-pound frozen turkey, is down more than 16% from last year, which will provide critical savings for families and their budgets. President Trump's entire economic agenda is aimed at putting more money back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. That's why he signed the largest middle tax cuts in history into law, from no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, to no tax on Social Security. And according to a new study from Piper Sandler, which is out this week, tax filers can expect an extra $1,000 bump to their tax refund next year in what could be a record-breaking tax refund season. So there is more good news to come. We know these refunds will make a huge difference for Americans to help pay down their bills and use towards life's expenses. In other news this week, President Trump took a significant step toward delivering on a core campaign promise to finally close the Department of Education. To shrink the bloated federal bureaucracy, the Department of Education just entered into new interagency agreements with 4 agencies: the Departments of Labor, Interior, Health and Human Services, and State. These agencies will now ensure the delivery of legally required programs while also refocusing them to better serve students. This common sense action brings the Trump administration much closer to finally returning education where it belongs, at the state and local level, not in Washington, D.C. The Democrats' reckless 43-day government shutdown did manage to do one valuable thing. It proved that America does not need a federal Department of Education. During the longest shutdown in history, the Department of Education furloughed 90% of its staff, and America's education system was not impacted whatsoever. Schools stayed fully open across the country. Students attended class and received normal in-person instruction, and our wonderful teachers received their paychecks uninterrupted. The Democrats' government shutdown made it painfully obvious that American families do not need the Department of Education. Since its creation in 1979 during the Carter administration, the Department of Ed has spent over $3 trillion taxpayer dollars without improving student achievement. Despite pure pupil spending having increased by more than 245% since the 1970s, math and reading scores are down in public schools. In fact, the most recent Nation's Report Card from 2024 showed that 13-year-olds' math scores are the lowest they've been in decades, and their reading scores are the lowest since testing began more than 30 years ago. It's clear that throwing more money at a broken system does not work, and that's why President Trump appointed the amazing leader behind me, our Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, who is making these monumental changes at the direction of the President. We're very grateful to have you here today to talk about these changes and then take some questions. Hopefully folks in this room will have some questions on the very important topic of education. So please, Mrs. Secretary.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Caroline. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today, and thank all of you for being here as well. My purpose here is to speak directly to the American families, not just you, but to the American families, about the work this administration is doing in education to reverse our national decline with a hard reset of our educational system. That reset was a top campaign promise from President Trump to send education back to the states and end Washington's micromanagement of education once and for all. This week we took the most decisive steps thus far to make good on this promise to you. We have linked 6 groundbreaking partnerships with other federal agencies to delegate education department programs that are redundant with existing programs at Labor, State, Interior, and HHS. These interagency agreements to cut our own bureaucratic bloat are a key step in our efforts to shift educational authority from Washington, D.C. to your state education agency, your local superintendent, your local school board, entities that are accountable to you, and we encourage parents to always be involved. Cutting federal bureaucracy is never a popular move among D.C. insiders. A chorus of anti-Trump voices have come out of the woodwork to complain that we are defunding education, harming students, or acting without a plan. This could not be further from the truth. The majority of Americans across the country handed President Trump the popular vote precisely because they have seen the brokenness of a top-down education system run by the federal government. They're painfully aware that only 3 out of 10 students can read proficiently at their grade level. They know that college students are collectively $1.7 trillion in debt, and less than half of college graduates get a job that actually uses the degree which they studied so hard to get. They see more teachers than ever before leaving the profession due to burnout, over-regulation, and lack of autonomy in the classroom. Anti-Trump voices are stirring up fear that returning education to the states is a draconian action. When Americans hear that we are shutting down the department, but given no other details, 51% oppose it. But when those same Americans are informed of our plans to preserve important elements of our work in other federal agencies and to maintain the K-12 funding that is distributed to the states, that number flips to an even greater majority at 56%. They support returning education to the states and breaking up the bureaucracy. That's because the Department of Education is a pass-through entity. It doesn't educate a single student. The money it sends to states for education can be sent directly without waste. The Democrats' government shutdown proved that without a doubt, and I'll reiterate what you said, that the Department of Education was not necessary during the shutdown. Now, this is what I've seen already on my 50-state tour that I've embarked on. Educators are innovating in their schools. States are customizing their budgets and standards, and post-secondary institutions are planning for the economy of the future. But we're not leading them. They are informing us. That's why our final mission as a department is to fully empower states to carry the torch of our educational renaissance. Education is local. It should be overseen locally by those who best know local needs. We're not ending federal support for education. We are ending federal micromanagement and paving the way for education renewal through state reforms like school choice, the science of reading, and restoring the right priorities in higher education. President Trump promised to send education back to the states, and we're keeping that promise. America's next generation will look back on the work we've carried out, thankful for an education system that prioritizes students over bureaucracy. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Secretary, and we'll take some questions for the Secretary if you have them. Elizabeth, why don't you start?
Thank you for joining us. You announced the partnership to move some functions of the Education Department to other agencies. Are you talking to members of Congress about codifying this so that it lasts beyond the administration?
Yes, we started a conversation, and thanks very much for asking that, because there have been some reports that Congress is in the dark on this. That's clearly not true. We've been talking to, I've talked to dozens of members of Congress to explain to them exactly what we're doing, to bring them up to speed, and to say to them, look, when we have completed some of these transfers that are working incredibly well, then we will be looking to Congress to codify those, make them permanent.
Brian.
Thank you. Secretary McMahon, what is the update on the negotiations with Harvard? I know the President has publicly pointed to you as somebody who's worked on that. I think you've talked about that at length, but I'd like to understand, where are things with those negotiations with Harvard at this time?
They're ongoing negotiations. I feel very comfortable that we are getting close to having those negotiations finalized. It's been open door conversation all along.
Deanna?
Hello, Mrs. Secretary. The President recently posted about establishing a federal standard for AI. Do you know if the administration has a view on the use of AI for students in schools? And Karoline, do you know if the President personally uses AI?
I don't think so.
You can handle that
I've never
one.
witnessed it, so I can't attest to that.
Well, I do think AI is going to need guardrails, but I have witnessed AI firsthand. I was at the Alpha School in Austin, Texas, and the first 2 hours of every day in that school, students are learning through AI. They have their headsets on, they're in front of their screens, and the AI is really acting as like an individual tutor for those students, allowing those students that can progress faster to do that. Those who need a little catch-up, it refeeds information to them. And so after those 2 hours of learning, the basics of what they're doing in their curriculum that day, then they spend the rest of the day, they have good recess and all of that time, but then they spend the rest of the day in what are called life skills, and they're actually using the information that they've learned this morning. So I've seen some AI in action that is really proving quite beneficial.
Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. Secretary McMahon, as the Education Department continues to pare down, can you talk about taxpayer services like charter school grants and how the department will continue to assist kids with special needs?
Well, we are going to make sure there's no interruption in getting that grant money out the door. That money is it comes from Congress. It's appropriated by Congress, and we legally are obligated to do that. And the transitions we're starting to make, our first programs that went over to the Department of Labor, that was a few weeks ago. We actually signed the first interagency agreement, which we accomplished under the authority of the Economy Act. We transferred grants for WIOA and for the Perkins Act. And the really good news is that the Department of Labor has a much more sophisticated system, technology system and grant fulfilling system than the Department of Education does. As a matter of fact, our executive manager that went over with that group over to Labor said he would compare what the labor system is to education's like held together by bubble gum that is not connected to any other part. So we were able to get those grants out the door more smoothly, and states have actually better access for those systems than they do at the Department of Education. So that's a real bonus.
Take a couple more. Carrie, go ahead.
As far as the diversity, equity, and inclusion new regulations that came out from the administrations, a lot of schools, whether high school or even higher education is concerned, some of them are defying these new administration policies, even apparently according to a new report.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
As far as there's been a new report from the administration saying that half of medical schools are defying the administration when it comes to DEI policies. What type of action will the administration take for these schools that are defying the new DEI policies?
The President has been very clear, and the Department of Education has taken measures to make sure that as schools are developing, their policies, or if they have open DEI offices, they're closed, or DEI regulations and rules are stripped, from their programs, and so that will continue.
Great. We'll take one more. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. Secretary McMahon, my question is, since you said 3 out of 10 students are literate with regard to their reading capacity, would now the states help to improve those numbers since you have gone back to the states?
Well, what we are finding that the states that are making great progress It's through their own innovation. It's not coming from the Department of Education. I think the Department of Education is really misunderstood about what our function is. We don't teach one student. We have nothing to do with the curriculum that are in any states. We are a pass-through pathway from money that's appropriated by Congress to get to the states. But what we have seen in those states that have taken that initiative and they are embracing the science of reading and returning that into their school programs. Louisiana has done it. Mississippi, they call it the Mississippi Miracle, because they were like, I think, bottom or next to last in reading proficiency in Mississippi. And now they're like middle of the pack, which has been a really big jump. Florida has, Iowa has, Tennessee. But these are innovations that are done at the state level. This is not anything we're dictating, and that's why I'm saying returning education to the states where they really are already leading in their education endeavors. And 90% of their budget they provide. The federal government only provides 8 to 10% of the budget for education. So let's make sure that that grant money that's coming from the federal government is getting in their hands as efficiently as possible and getting to students. We don't want teachers having to spend their time and money in regulatory compliance. There was one superintendent chief who said to me that they had done some calculation in their state and that for every dollar that went into the classroom in a grant, 47 cents was spent in regulatory compliance. So let's get the money into the hands of our students and our teachers. Let's raise the level of education. The other thing I'll do, and I'll quickly wrap up for you, is this 50-state tour that I have embarked on. We've done about 14 states. We've shut down a little bit during the shutdown. But what I am doing is visiting different kinds of schools, grammar schools, middle schools, high schools, micro schools, private schools, charter schools, the whole gambit. And in the end, my goal will be, as we step away and fully deliver education back to the states, is to provide them with a best practices toolkit of all of the things that I have seen around the country to say, hey, this is working. Check with these superintendents, check with these governors. And you know what I found a little bit is governors are a little competitive. So it's kind of nice to give some of these best practices out there. It'll work because it's already working. If we leave it with the people who are closest to the students, the president believes, as do I, the best education is that's closest to the child, and parents' involvement is critical to the success.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Linda.
Your
Thank
pleasure.
you so much. I appreciate your coming today. Thanks for your great work.
Whoop.
And
Thank
she's
you all very much.
a busy lady, so we'll let her
Come
get
on.
back to work. All right. Thank you again. Well, let's get to it. You guys were so calm with her. I wish you were that calm with me. We'll kick off with our new media seat, as always. Javier, why don't you start us off, and then we'll get to the rest of the room. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Javier Negre. I'm from Spain. I'm the owner of the biggest media platform in Hispanic politics, with brands like La Derecha Diario, Ira TV, or UH and Plus, or Vice Gratis in Spanish. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for supporting the new media, also in the Hispanic community. We try to fight against media like Telemundo, Univision, CNN, or NBC News that are spreading fake news and attacking the ICE operations. We will premiere this Sunday the Real America's Voice, the right new show, the first Hispanic show against communism and woke culture that is promoted by people like George Soros to bring communism all over the world, like happened in New York. I have two questions for you, if you don't mind. In Mexico, the young people is protesting against President Sheinbaum. They think she's doing nothing against the cartels. Sheinbaum used the police to attack them, young people, kids, girls, and she's attacking journalists like me in a country where 150 journalists have been killed in the past years. The USA legacy media is attacking President Trump for his comments about the fake news media, while they are not publishing anything about the murders of journalists in Mexico. Why do you think they stay silent about the murders of journalists in Mexico and the attacks to businessmen like Ricardo Salinas? And my second question is, Trump said he has a plan for the narco state of Venezuela. Does he have a plan for Mexico where, according to Stephen Miller, the cartels are controlling governments and territories?
Sure. Well, thank you, Javier, for the question and for being here. We're proud to have new media voices in the briefing room. As for President Sheinbaum and the president's relationship with Mexico, I will tell you that we have seen historic strides from President Sheinbaum and her administration in Mexico when it comes to cracking down on the cartels. They have been incredibly cooperative with the president's efforts at our southern border to crack down on illegal immigration and also the illegal trafficking of drugs at the southern border. Now the president is very interested in taking additional measures against the drug cartels. He's been very clear about that. He's spoken about it, and this is a promise that he made to the American public. And so his national security team is discussing these options all of the time. And on the campaign trail, the president promised to take on the cartels. He has taken unprecedented action to do so, and he has left additional options at his disposal on the table. So those are only decisions that the president can make. Thank you.
What about the silence of the legacy media about the murders of journalists in Mexico? 150 journalists have been killed in the past years.
Yeah, well, it's certainly something we would report on more, and it's something that this administration absolutely condemns. I can't speak for the media, but I can speak for the president. That's not something he wants to see. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. Is there anything that Mayor-elect Mamdani could say tomorrow that would ease the president's concerns about his future leadership in New York?
Look, I don't want to speak for the president ahead of this meeting that we are currently working on tomorrow. As you saw, the president put out a statement tomorrow that the mayor-elect will be coming to the Oval Office, and so our teams are arranging those details. I won't get into the president's thinking on it. I think you'll all hear from him directly. I also think I will just add, it speaks volumes that tomorrow we have a communist coming to the White House because that's who the Democrat Party elected as the mayor of the largest city in the country. I think it's very telling, but I also think it speaks to the fact that President Trump is willing to meet with anyone and talk to anyone and to try to do what's right on behalf of the American people, whether they live in blue states or red states or blue cities, in a city that's becoming much more left than I think this president ever anticipated in his many years of living in New York himself. Nancy.
Thanks, Caroline. Caroline, this morning President Trump accused 6 Democratic lawmakers of seditious behavior punishable by death. Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No. Let's be clear about what the president is responding to, because many in this room want to talk about the president's response, but not what brought the president to responding in this way. You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, to active duty service members, to members of the national security apparatus, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders. The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution are essentially encouraging. We have 1.3 active duty service members in this country. And if they hear this radical message from sitting members of Congress, that could inspire chaos and it could incite violence and it certainly could disrupt the chain of command. These 3 members of Congress, I will also add, knew exactly what they were doing. You look at Alyssa Slotkin. She's a former member of the CIA. Mark Kelly was a captain in the U.S. Navy. Maggie Goodlander was a naval officer. And notably, she is also the wife of Joe Biden's national security former advisor, Jake Sullivan. And so these members knew what they were doing. They were leading into their credentials as former members of our military, as veterans, as former members of the national security apparatus to signal to people serving under this commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, that you can defy him and you can betray your oath of office. That is a very, very dangerous message. And it perhaps is punishable by law. I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave that to the Department of Justice and the Department of War to decide.
But the president has frequently, but Caroline, can I just follow up? The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing to encourage and incite violence? They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders. Every single
can refuse an illegal order, which
but
is
they're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful. And the courts have proven that. This administration has an unparalleled record at the Supreme Court because we are following the laws. We don't defy court orders. We do things by the books. And to suggest and encourage that active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do. And they should be held accountable, and that's what the president wants to see. Phil.
Thank you. Ambassador Mike Huckabee had a meeting with Jonathan Pollard, a former U.S. citizen who was convicted and spent 3 decades in jail for selling state secrets to Israel. Did the White House know that that meeting was going to happen? Does the administration condone it?
The White House was not aware of that meeting. The president stands by our ambassador, Mike Huckabee, and all that he's doing for the United States and Israel.
You said that the president was going to do what was right for U.S. citizens, regardless of whether they lived in blue or red states. I'm curious if there's any chance in tomorrow's meeting with Mayor-elect Mamdani that he will be able to convince the president to abandon that promise to cut off federal funding to New York City.
Look, Phil, we'll see how the meeting goes, and I'll let the president speak for himself. Natalie.
Thank you, Caroline. What did the president mean when he called reporter piggy?
Look, the president is very frank and honest with everyone in this room. You've all seen it yourself. You've all experienced it yourselves, and I think it's one of the many reasons that the American people reelected this president, because of his frankness. And calls out fake news when he sees it. He gets frustrated with reporters when you lie about him, when you spread fake news about him and his administration. But he also is the most transparent president in history, and he gives all of you in this room, as you all know, unprecedented access. You are in the Oval Office almost every day asking the president questions. And so I think the president being frank and open and honest to your faces rather than hiding behind your backs is frankly a lot more respectful than what you saw in the last administration, where you had a president who lied to your face and then didn't speak to you for weeks and hid upstairs and didn't take your questions. So I think everyone in this room should appreciate the frankness and the openness that you get from President Trump on a near daily basis.
Go ahead. As a follow-up.
Yes.
The Washington Post just reported that the Coast Guard has...
I'm calling on Bloomberg. Go ahead.
Caroline, thank you. 2 questions for you. The New York Times is reporting that the administration is now sending a U.S. official to the G20. They're sending Mark Dillard. Can you confirm if that is true, and then also explain the shift in?
I'd be happy to explain, because not a shift. The United States is not participating in official talks at the G20 in South Africa. I saw the South African president running his mouth a little bit against the United States and the president of the United States earlier today, and that language is not appreciated by the president or his team. The ambassador or the representative of the embassy in South Africa is simply there to recognize that the United States will be the host of the G20. They are receiving that send-off at the end of the event. They are not there to participate in official talks, despite what the South African president is falsely claiming.
On Ukraine, there have been reports that President Zelensky said, he's looking to look at the plan. That there's been reports about the Trump administration proposing a plan. Can you just give an update on where Russia-Ukraine stands, and does the president plan Zelensky anytime soon, or when can you expect that?
So I'm happy to provide. I've seen quite a bit of reporting on the latest with Russia-Ukraine, so let me clarify and give you guys the truth on where it currently stands. President Trump has made it very clear since day one, and even on the campaign trail, that he wants to see this war come to an end. He has grown increasingly frustrated with both sides of this war, Russia and Ukraine alike, for their refusal to commit to a peace agreement. But nevertheless, the president and his national security team are steadfast in seeing this war come to an end, to end the killing and deliver on the president's promise. Special Envoy Witkoff, Marco Rubio, have been working on a plan quietly for about the last month. They've been engaging with both sides, Russia and Ukraine, equally, to understand what these countries would commit to in order to see a lasting and durable peace. That's how you get to a peace negotiation, right? That's how it worked with Israel, with respect to Israel and Gaza and all of the Arab countries in the Middle East. That's how we accomplished that historic agreement, which the UN, by the way, voted to commit to and accept this week, which was a huge monumental moment. So they have been engaged with both sides, and these talks are continuing. As always, I'm not going to litigate the details of this plan as it's ongoing and it's in flux, but the president supports this plan. It's a good plan for both Russia and Ukraine, and we believe that it should be acceptable to both sides, and we're working very hard to get it done. And I'll also add, I know Secretary Driscoll did meet with President Zelensky today. We spoke with him. He was very optimistic following that meeting. And so, again, we are having good conversations with both sides with respect to ending this war. Sure. Go ahead.
On Ukraine, you said this is a good plan. So according to our sources, this proposal demands major concessions from Ukraine and doesn't demand much from Russia. So was Russia involved in drafting
Your
this?
understanding is wrong. Have you read the full plan? You haven't.
Sources says.
Yeah.
If you can give details,
You've read reporting from one side of the war, and so I want you to understand. The administration has talked equally with both sides. You have seen President Trump engage directly with both President Putin and President Zelensky. Likewise, his national security team has as well. In fact, Special Envoy Witkoff and Secretary Rubio met with some of the Ukrainians just in the past week to discuss this very plan. And so just like you saw with respect to Israel and Gaza, we are hearing out both sides of this war to understand what can you commit to end the war. And that's ultimately how we are going to get to an agreeable solution. That's what the president has directed of his team. I know there's a lot of criticism out there and a lot of doubters, but I would just remind you of the historic success that this president and his team accomplished in the Middle East. We believe that is possible with Russia and Ukraine, and we're hoping and working very hard to achieve that. Stephen.
Could you provide a little more context on what to expect tomorrow with the Mamdani meeting? Will it be in the Oval Office, or is it going to be open at least partially to the press?
I don't have any more details to read out for you meeting quite yet, Stephen. I know it's of great interest to you in the New York Post, but we'll keep, maybe if it opens, we can commit to letting you in. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. It came up yesterday during a confirmation hearing for the president's pick to lead the CFTC that the CFTC currently has 0 Democrat commissioners, whereas usually it's had 2 or more. Does the president plan to appoint Democrats to financial regulators like the CFTC and SEC, or does the president feel that there shouldn't be Democrat leadership at those agencies, consistent with the administration's move earlier this year to remove Democrats from the FTC and other agencies?
To be completely honest, I haven't spoken to the president about the CFTC in quite some time, but I'm happy to check in with our presidential personnel office and see if there's any updates that we can provide you there. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. Last week on Fox News, President Trump said that we've had a lot of problems with the French. How would you describe the current relationship between France and the U.S.?
Look, the relationship remains strong. President Trump speaks quite frequently with Emmanuel Macron. I think they have a good working relationship. But the president is not shy to point out when he has disagreements with world leaders as well. And he's done that with respect to Mr. Macron as well. Deanna, go ahead.
Caroline, there are reports that Qatar is acting as a mediator in the Ukraine peace process. Can you confirm that, and why did the president choose that country?
I'm not going to get into further detail than what I previously shared, which I think was quite a bit of information. Brian?
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. You were talking about earlier in this briefing about the president's orders. You were going back and forth about what the ad said and what didn't say. My first question is...
The ad?
The advertisement that the Senate Democrats were featured in. So the first question is, no matter what the order is, it could be to any administration official, military or otherwise, no matter if legal experts might think it's illegal, does the president expect those cabinet members, administration officials to go ahead with those orders regardless of any outside thinking or experts?
The president expects his officials in the administration to follow the law and to demand accountability and hold people accountable for their dangerous rhetoric. And I would just add that if this were Republican members of Congress who were encouraging members of the military and members of our United States government to defy orders from the president and from the chain of command, this entire room would be up in arms. But instead, It is the other way around, and I think that's quite telling. I'm going to let you all go because the president, excuse me, I appreciate the encouragement this morning, but this afternoon. But President Trump is about to meet in minutes with Israeli hostages who this administration freed, and so I'm going to go up to that meeting, and you will hear more about that later. Thank you.
Misquoted Democrats in that video. That's actually not what they said.
The superstar Karoline Leavitt and also the Secretary of Education Linda McMahon to a packed house of our colleagues there in the James S. Brady briefing room in the West Wing of the White House. Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Who will President Trump pardon this year? Will Bitcoin hit the March Madness 150K in 2026? Something to look forward to. Will the Chicago Bears, that are 7-3, pull it out in the NFC North? It seems that things have changed under Coach Ben Johnson. It's sports, it's music, it's politics, culture, and much more at Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trade on that now and don't miss a minute of the action in the golden era. Thank you as well to angelpaste.com. A wonderful gift as well for those this time of year, for stocking stuffers or for a main entree, if you will, because you get the dry hands with the colder temperatures and the dry air out there in America this time of year. Experience the miracle that is the Vitamin B Miracle Cream I use every day. Non-GMO, non-chemical, and good for you. Also, the orange option, very helpful for that vitamin C boost this time of year. And for that first date or that 50th wedding anniversary to everything in between, a natural facial spray for guys and gals to go paint the town red. It is a Christian-owned company. They hire veterans, and they are based in the Lone Star State of Texas, right off the Gulf of America in Spring, in that growing Houston Metroplex, a lovely place to live. It's the miracle that is angelpaste.com. And as we bid you adieu at 2 o'clock Eastern, do not let your hearts be troubled, for tonight is Thursday night, which is Thursday Night Football. But before that, the voice of reason. So tune in tonight for episode 24 at 6 o'clock Eastern, 4 hours from now. Get all America First updates and exclusive offers right here at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. And speaking of the voice of reason, we had a guest on a few weeks ago, if you remember, Adam Keller, to break down all of those fantasy football notes for the season as the gridiron battle gets deep into November and into the holiday season. It will probably be a big part of your Thanksgiving celebrations 1 week from today, but it is his lovely wife's birthday today. So happy birthday, Melinda Keller. She is a new mom and doing a great job at that. And I love them very much. They're like family to me. So happy birthday, Melinda Keller. And we hope that you're having a wonderful Thursday in your neck of the woods. Of course, always write in if you wish to opine. Feedback at rsbn.tv. Feedback at rsbn.tv. Again, all America First updates and exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. For all my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, we'll see you back at 6 o'clock Eastern this evening for the Voice of Reason. May God bless you and have a wonderful Thursday.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.